Let's do the damn thing.
You know what time it is? It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope y'all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talking, they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna the show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
BS.
What up, BSers?
What's up, peeps?
Fred, Scott, Ryan, Drew, all virtually in the studio tonight. We're coming to you live, but all from 4 different locations.
COVID almost shut us down.
That's right. Wouldn't be 2020 if we didn't go down this path.
Wait, I feel like the Ravens. We moved the show to Wednesday. We're all in separate places in isolation. What the hell's going on?
One of us showed up for warm-ups with COVID.
Yeah. It has been a rough couple of weeks for COVID and the Ravens and the Terps. It's hit locally pretty hard, I'd say. Over the past couple of weeks, we had basically our AAA squad out there against the Steelers 2 weeks ago. Didn't go well. Listen, I'll be honest. I think they performed okay. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But
then everything is getting shut down. Like, now it's 25% in the city with the new mayor. So it's like, I'm curious to see how that's going to wind up affecting any home games for the rest of the year, too.
Right.
Because they have to abide by the same rules unless they're going to give them a pass.
Right. That's very true. We did bounce back last night against the Cowboys. Big win. Big win for the Ravens. The Terps hoping to bounce back after having COVID run rampant through their locker room as well and through their coaching staff. They had a loss to Indiana, but looking to wrap up their season against Rutgers here in the next couple of days. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're talking 50-year-old boxers, YouTube boxers, and guys getting the boot in this week's rundown. We got a hodgepodge of shit to talk about in this week's rundown. But before we do want to remind you, if you've ever been injured at work or in an auto accident and weren't sure who to call, 855-MD-CRASH, the Maryland personal injury attorneys that'll have your back. If you find yourself in that unfortunate situation, and I know I have, give our team at MD Crash a call right away. We all know the cost of medical bills, lost wages, and pain and suffering. It can all add up quickly and potentially put you in a bad financial place. If you want a team that'll handle your case, big or small, and just give you some peace of mind, save this number now. 855-MD-CRASH. That's 855-632-7274. Be sure to follow them on Facebook for some fun giveaways, including gift cards to some restaurants you might be able to use in 2021. Who knows? Kind of the way of things. All right, Scott. It's time for some Flock talk. Fellas, we struggled there. We had the loss in Pittsburgh against the Steelers.
I don't remember that. We won last night, so...
Yeah.
All I remember.
One game at a time.
That's right. Well, listen, the Ravens hit a rough stretch there for a while. They lost 3 in a row, 4 of 5. It's been a while since the Ravens have hit that kind of a bump in the road, to say the least. But they were able, like you said, last night to bounce back in a big way, beat Dallas 34-17.
Before we jump too far into the Dallas game, I think we have to at least, we didn't have a show last week, obviously, with everything that went on last week with the changes and the moves and everything. We gotta at least talk about it here for a minute. First of all, 22 guys on the COVID list at one point. I think it was a total of wound up being 13 inactive.
You almost feel my pain. The Terps were 23 inactives with COVID the week before.
Yeah.
Right. But we still kept it close with the Steelers with really a bunch of third-string starters, a bunch of them, not just one or two. We had a third-string quarterback that wound up going out there later in the game and made it a competitive game. We were in a chat. We were all calling for him to be out there before then, because we knew RG3 wasn't producing in the first quarter. We saw it. But overall, I was impressed.
Yeah. I mean, considering, you had the middle of your defense out, you didn't have Brandon Williams there, which we all know what this defense looks like without Brandon Williams. You didn't have Calais Campbell out there. Like you said, you got RG3 and Trace McSorley out there leading the way. To kind of hold it as close as they did just goes to show what I was saying a couple of weeks ago, that I thought the Steelers had to be one of the worst 11-0 teams in history. I mean, honestly, like they just been skating by. Drew, I don't know what your opinion is on the Steelers, but to me, I don't think that they really stand much of a chance, even if they get the 1 or 2 seed, to really go far in this playoffs. They do not look like a playoff team to me.
That's what I was thinking when Scott was talking. Like, yeah, I give the squad that we put out there a lot of credit, but at the same time, 5 yards an attempt is not sustainable.
Right.
If you got to be able to run the ball, and I know it wasn't Connor, but I'm like, they've kind of been doing that all season long when Connor's playing.
Right.
And Benny Snell, I mean, it's not like he's no superstar by any stretch of the means, but it's not like he hasn't been around enough that you could try. They're not even trying.
Yeah.
So the only time he throws it down the field is when you see the ball going in there, you're like, all right, who's going to get the DPI because it's coming.
Right. I mean, you should be, to me, if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm jamming the wide receivers at the line of scrimmage in that first 5 yards where you can get your hands on them and hoping for the best with your pass rush to get back there and get at Big Ben, who's obviously a much older quarterback. He's not mobile. He's a big guy, but he's getting the ball out quick. And that's what this Pittsburgh offense has been successful with. If you jam the wide receivers at the line of scrimmage, get your hands on them, give your defense a little bit of time. This team does not scare me one bit.
And that's the other thing about this game too, right? You talked about him getting the ball out fast. He's gotten the ball out faster this year than he has in his entire career, right? Yeah. So that tells you something, that he's still in good physical condition to be able to do that. But in this
he's
game,
compensating.
Okay, maybe. But
no, he definitely is. He doesn't have the long ball. He doesn't have the deep ball that he once had. He doesn't have the arm strength.
What do you expect?
Right. Yeah, he's still got the elbow problems.
Drew Brees is doing that pretty well down in New Orleans, for a couple years with his 8 yards an attempt. So.
But Ben Roethlisberger is not Drew Brees.
No, he's not. I don't even know how you said those two in the same sentence.
It's the first year of him trying this Drew Brees shit. It's going pretty well for him at 11-0.
Yeah. Well, no, they ended up losing to the WFTs.
I was trying to, but we were all pretending like we didn't have added information that they were the worst 11-0 team ever.
But the other thing about this game was there were some big drops by the Steelers, right? So, like you said, it's the worst 11-0 team that we've seen. Big drops. Ebron was ridiculously horrible in this game.
He's an ass clown.
Oh, yeah.
God, he gets on my nerves. All the running his mouth on social media and shit, and then he goes out there and it's drop city. That dude just
sounds like a receiver we have.
He had one good year. Right. He had one good year up there in Indianapolis when what's his name was up there throwing the ball.
Ryan beat me
14 touchdowns.
Right. Ryan beat me to it with that statement, right? Is that it sounds like somebody we have that runs their mouth on social media, and then when the ball's thrown to them,
in the air.
It hits them in the hands, and they don't catch it. And I'm sorry.
All right, I get it. I get where you're going. Listen, Hollywood made one tweet, and we're riding that tweet like it was a trend thing. He hasn't been somebody to run his mouth consistently on Twitter. He made one poor decision with it and then decided to get off of it.
He also wasn't predicting the Super Bowl in week 13 either.
True.
Right.
But the other thing that comes...
When you're the brother of a Brown, you cannot run your mouth on Twitter and get the benefit of doubt. No. You can't do it.
But the other thing that comes with Hollywood, and it's going to be this is going to be my lead into the Dallas game and transition us into this Dallas game, because I have a new nickname for Hollywood. Okay? Real simple. Pansy Brown. Because he's afraid to get hit. I'm sorry. Every play, he's running out of bounds. The one play, he literally ran 3 or 2.5 yards backwards towards the line of scrimmage instead of turning and running upfield where he would have gotten another 2 yards. Instead, he got stopped where he was when he caught the ball.
But did you see the tweet of him catching that touchdown and the ball makes his body look like a 3-year-old?
I did.
I know.
Wouldn't you be? I don't understand.
But that was
when the patch on your jersey takes up your entire shoulder pad. You're a little bit too small.
But that's the thing, though, is he put on all this weight so that he could take hits, and But I feel he's lost a step, and he's still afraid to take the hit. There's too many times where he does this like stutter step move, like he's gonna make a shifty move like Lamar does, and he's never really been that guy. He's been the speed guy. You get him in open field,
I think the most frustrating part of this game with Hollywood was the catch over the middle that should have been, but he put up one hand to try to catch it. I mean, you do come equipped with two hands. Put both hands up. Literally any other wide receiver on this squad would have made that catch last night.
It was the backhand too. It wasn't, he wasn't going up and it didn't hit off his front. He was going for the one-handed catch the whole way. And it was very clear, very evident.
He was going for a catch. His fingers didn't even move. He just hit it with a racket.
He's too worried about everything else that's going on. Where's the defender? Am I going to get hit? He's got all these things to me. I have no idea, but this is what I think is going on. He's got all this stuff going on in his head that he's not focused on his number one job, which is catching the freaking football.
Wasted talent right there. We all said this guy had speed. He had the ability when you get him in open field to do well. But it's wasted talent, and I tell you what, in my opinion, it's not, at this point, it's not on Lamar and Greg Roman's end. It's on his end. I've talked about it at nauseum before. He's not beating his receivers on a regular basis. He's afraid to get hit over the middle. That play, I think he knows there's a defender coming out of the backfield, and he knows a defender is touching him behind him. He is covered. He's looking and afraid for the hit. He's bracing for the hit before he even has the ball.
It's not Lamar's fault, in my opinion, but it's still a little bit of Greg Roman. You're not using him in the plays that you see Cheetah being used in. You're not seeing him in the bubble screens. You're not seeing him in the end arounds. The only bubble screen in the Steelers game was the one that got called back for illegal formation. Like, if he's scared to get hit, there are ways to get him the ball in space that we're not doing. That ball across the middle, it's pretty obvious that's not his deal. Why are we throwing a drag route across the middle with the linebackers? That's not where he is.
Because he did that last year in open space, and in open space he was fine. Right. So that goes to your point a little bit.
Before we get too much into this, before we get too much into the Cowboys' actual game itself, right? We got to talk about what happened just prior to the game, because I think this is kind of the big story, right? Obviously, a lot of the hype going into this game was the return of Dez Bryant, going against his former team in the Cowboys. And he's pumped. He's out on the field like an hour or two before anybody else out there warming up. Well, 30 minutes prior to the game, he gets pulled from warm-ups due to a positive COVID test, which is fine, right? This is what they're supposed to do. Pull them off the field the minute that you find out that they're positive. But here's the question. Apparently, earlier in the day, he had taken another test that came up as inconclusive. If the test was inconclusive, what the hell was he doing on the field to begin with?
1,000% agree with you. This baffled my mind. And here's why. I'm gonna take us back for a second to our opening image and let the fans kind of see the picture. If you didn't see it, in the opening image here, and the song's not going to play, so you don't have to worry about that. This is a picture on the left-hand side of Dez greeting a Cowboys player pre-game before this game. Not only does he embrace him, he wound up giving him a hug, but the entire time, Dez's mask is down.
Yeah.
How
I know.
When they said it afterwards, they were like, "Oh, the contact tracing came up that he was fine and there was no risk." I saw the risk.
Bleed Purple.
TV.
Bleed Purple says he must have been in our group chat yesterday when we were going back and forth with this. Bleed Purple says, "Man, Jerry Jones was written all over it." Yeah,
that's exactly the text I said.
Yeah, we all said the same thing. Something seemed fishy with the whole thing from the beginning. Like I said, I don't understand why he was out on the field to begin with. If the test is inconclusive, you have to take that as you're a positive until proven negative. In my eyes,
it's an assumed positive. If I can't say for sure that you're negative through this test, it's an assumed positive. How was he allowed to even get to the facility? First off. Second off, I get he was tested, but he was tested off-site. Why are we not testing these guys before? There's no proof that I guess maybe you have a list. There's a bouncer at the front door going, "You're not on the list. You can't get in," right? Like, is that what's happening? If so, there's nothing to say this guy couldn't have picked up COVID between here and there. And I know it's not going to show up in 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. It's not going to happen. He had it. If it showed a positive, he had it 2 days ago. Simple as that.
I'm going to tell you now, if there's another outbreak with the Ravens or with the Cowboys in the next day or two, this shit's going to get real ugly real quick for the Ravens.
They're going to get fined. I think Drew, you said it was like you were saying like $1 million fine. You can see them losing like a draft pick or two. I mean, do you think this is going to be the Ravens are going to be made of an example here?
I wonder if it's too. I don't know. I wonder if it's too late to make them example out of them. Considering, I mean, you only got a few weeks left. I guess you could still make an example out of them. But I do foresee something. At least $1 million fine. I think I said as high, like even the times I've said $2 million, which is still, I know that's still kind of like a drop in the bucket for NFL teams. But like it to me, screw that. But are you going to take a second or a third from them? Because that's really vital nowadays, especially when we usually do pretty good in those rounds. Now,
and it's going to be catastrophic with us because we're getting ready to be really up against the cap. We got some big contracts we just signed, so we're going to have to replace some talent with some high round draft picks. We can't afford to lose draft picks.
No. And you have a couple less now with the Ngakoue trade, and some other things happening.
Yeah, right. There's a lot going on here, and this is going to be an evolving story. I told my wife when we were sitting there, she was like, "Why are they still playing the game?" Because she saw the same thing. We all saw the video of him on the field. So it's like, why was the game still played? We all know why it was played. It was because of this. It was because of money. They were concerned about the money. You already had delayed it with NBC it was NBC or Fox. It was a Fox game, so they had already delayed it for Fox. So that was already an issue. That's why it was done. That's why this game was still played. Because let's be real, if it was up to some of the people that probably make decisions, I'll tell you what, there were probably some pissed off people on the Cowboys. Especially anybody that embraced Dez.
It's 100% the first game they've played within 48 hours of a positive test. So they're obviously we're changing their standards there. With the non-exposure, I can't say this for certain, but I swear I heard that their standard for an exposure is like really high. So like it's within the 6 feet barrier for over 15 minutes without masks on. So that's 15 minutes, a pretty long time to be close to somebody on the other team.
How do you test? How do you test?
It's a weird standard, but that's what I remember it being.
But how do you test it? Like clearly that failed, right? With the coach, the strength and conditioning coach that didn't have his mask on. And I give, as much as I hate how he runs his mouth, I give Stephen A. a lot of credit because he brought up the point. This is not just, and this is where I asked the question, Drew, of will they be made an example of, because there were people walking around that building that are paid a lot of money that knew he was walking around without a mask. As many guys as he had contact with without a mask on, they knew. It was known. And that's why I think they will be made an example of. I expect draft picks. I expect heavy fines. And if this blows up, I'm going to say if this blows up and we have another outbreak, I'm going to say I could wind up seeing us having to forfeit a game. If it affects another team that much, how do you make it? They've made it very
clear there's no week 18. That's what you know from this game being played this week is there will be no week 18.
Yeah, so a forfeit's your only choice.
Yeah. Well, after that too, the other thing that kind of concerned me was immediately I go to Twitter and I'm looking at Des Bryant's profile, and he's tweeting from the locker room or his car or wherever he was. I have no idea, but his instant reaction was, "That's it, I'm quitting, can't handle this." Like, as much as this guy's been through to get back in the league, 3 years removed, man, I hope that was just an emotional tweet, because I think this guy can really add something to this offense the more and more he gets comfortable and the more Lamar gets comfortable with him.
But at the same time, he has every right. Like, it's an emotional statement, right? And he said since then that he is, he doesn't plan on quitting. It was an emotion at the time. But he has every right to go through that emotion, because just hours beforehand, he was told he was fine. That was his interpretation. He was fine. He was able to go down to the stadium. He was fine enough for them to let him into the stadium.
Right.
He was fine enough for him to go on the field. So I get his emotion. He was there. He had already embraced all these people. He knew that. He knew all these things. So for him, it baffled his mind and said, I can imagine being in his shoes. The conspiracy theories start probably rolling in his head. Right? That's where the Jerry Jones stuff probably in his head starts getting spun up, because of the fact that
100%.
It got this far.
And he's another one. He's another one that's gone public with his struggles with depression and anxiety and that kind of stuff.
He talked about it in Fox pregame.
Exactly. So, I mean, this could have just very well been, like you said, just an overly emotional reaction to it. After the game, he's showing support for his teammates. His teammates are showing support for him. So all that's good. I really believe that Dez can add something to this offense. I really do. As an outside receiver, I'm not saying he's going to be the number one guy on this team, but I think with him out there, I think we can see some improvement from some of the other guys because he takes it off of them.
Yeah. Well, so Dez, some of us in the group chat were expecting Dez to have a big game, myself included. But obviously he doesn't play. But
you were so wrong.
Shut up, Ryan. Like you
So
knew
wrong.
ahead of time. Anyway.
You didn't get a click on that one.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Hey, not as wrong as some of our other companions in that chat.
Yeah, the two that aren't here tonight.
Conveniently, they
Go
didn't
the
want to get on the show.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but the thing I think we had to call out in this game was what we saw out of Lamar in this game. Despite being out for COVID and having, not being able to practice, but one practice. He was allowed one practice. I think it was Saturday or Sunday that he was allowed to do the physical walkthrough practice. Outside of that, he really didn't get much. Comes out and has a pretty decent game, and I'll give you credit, Drew. Drew called before the game he was going to have 90-plus yards rushing with a TD rushing, and he said 2 passing TDs, and he had exactly that, Drew, with 107 passing yards, 2 TDs, the 1 interception, which we were putting on Hollywood, 13 carries for 94 yards, and that 1 TD. Great to see.
Yeah, I thought overall he had a pretty good game considering, like you said, to your point. He sat out for all that time, missed last week's game. He literally only got 1 practice in. Now, everybody did say that he was in all the virtual meetings and all that stuff. Virtual meetings are great, but until you get out there and you're practicing with your guys, man, it can really throw you off. And you saw that in this game. I mean, he had his highs, he had his lows, he had some missed throws. He left a lot of yardage on that field. But he also made some good throws. That touchdown that he threw, as much shit as we want to give to Hollywood, he ad-libbed on that route, went back into the back corner of the end zone, and Lamar dropped a dime to him.
Perfect
Probably
pass.
one of the better toe taps that I've seen out of Hollywood. It was a great catch, great throw. So again, and then on the opposite side of that, Lamar misses Miles Boykin in the back of the end zone late on an easy touchdown pass. What would have been an easy touchdown pass, he throws at his feet.
Yeah, that was probably the one that I was surprised because everything we've seen out of Lamar on those deep throws it's on deep throws, it's usually he's short. On short throws, it's usually he's high and long. That's what we've been seeing. That was a 15, 20-yard throw max, and he winds up burying it in the ground about 5 yards before him.
Right.
So that was the big that I was like, but I'm gonna attribute, he wasn't out there, getting the reps in. He's
timing and rhythm.
Exactly. So I give him a loose grade on this game because of the fact that he didn't have the time on the field to practice.
The thing I won't give him a loose grade, whatever the hell that means, but a loose grade on is going to be the arm angles. Like that's something that it's continues to be a problem. It's part of Lamar's game. And it's kind of what makes him and Patrick Mahomes unique is that they can kind of throw the ball from any which angle, throw it around a defender, throw it over a defender. He can do a little bit of everything. But there's unnecessary times that he drops his arm down to this sidearm throw. And when he does that, he gets too much air under the ball. There were a couple of throws that he threw over a couple of receivers' heads in this game. That's something that I think he can actively improve on. Again, we hold Lamar to a high standard. This guy was the MVP last year, right? And we're all hoping that he's going to get back to that at some point, to that kind of level. Those are the little like intricate things I think in his game that he can work on and improve.
I get what you're saying with the arm angles. The thing that I think that plays a factor into that is vision. Because sometimes he does have that good vision, just like Pat Mahomes, in that he sees the guy in front of him and sees that slot. That the only way he can throw it is to throw it underneath the arms, the arm of the defensive line, and know that it's going to get around him because that defensive lineman's going up for the ball, not down to the side. So I get it, but it's the vision to know now's the time to throw it to the side. Now's the time to throw it over top. Right. And I'm going to beat Ryan to it because there's a guy that's similar, and I'm not making this comparison by any means. So stating that right now.
Oh, jeez.
Tim Tebow had a similar issue.
Oh, Jesus.
that they tried to
End the
fix.
show. Cut.
Yeah,
Cut.
Lamar's a
I
fullback.
wasn't
You heard it
comparing
here
him, but
first.
God.
Yeah, go to bed.
I said I wasn't
Yeah.
comparing them, but no, you get what I'm saying though. That everybody was talking about the slot. The problem with Tim Tebow is he just defaulted to those slots. Lamar has worked on it. It's just when he gets comfortable or when he's uncomfortable, he defaults to it rarely, but it happens enough that it's like, if you would have just gone over top, you'd have had a good release point and the ball would have been coming out of the perfect spot. But if you're not, the ball's getting released back here instead of up here. And that's what's causing. It's just like a pitcher in baseball. You release it back here, it's going high. You release it here, and that's where it's going. It's going to go straight towards where you're throwing it to.
Yeah. The thing you got to remember, we're being uber critical. The guy was 12 of 17, right? He missed 5 passes, and we're honing in on each single one of those. Why couldn't they have been complete? Why couldn't he have been 17 to 17? We're being a little unrealistic.
17 passes. There's quarterbacks throwing 50 each week.
No,
so
I
we're
get-
already watering it down.
I get that, but not every quarterback's running for 94 yards and a touchdown on a 37-yard run on 4th and 2 either.
The one thing I do have to say is if Hollywood is taking credit for the interception, which I agree, I think Miles Boykin needs to take way more than 50% of that touchdown because that was a bad throw that he adjusted really well to. He got his balance, then broke a tackle to make that touchdown. That's the most impressive play of Boykin's career.
Oh, we all were like, Boykin! Like, oh my God.
What impressed me the most was just the fact that Lamar even threw it his fucking way.
Right.
Like the fact that he trusted him enough to even throw it his way.
And then threw it 8 feet behind him.
Right. It was perfect.
That's the kind of confidence booster I think Miles needs in himself, and I think that's the kind of confidence booster that Lamar needs in Miles too, because Lamar needs to see that Miles can make those type of tough catches when the lights are on in a big game, and he was able to do that.
Fred, in this game, how much do you think he actually missed Andrews? Because remember, Andrews was inactive for this game due to the COVID.
In this offensive system that Greg Roman runs, and Lamar's comfortability between the numbers, 100% he misses him. When Marquise Brown is your leading receiver with 5 catches for 39 yards, he misses his pass-catching tight end.
You win the Steelers game with Andrews. I mean, that at the tight end gets the ball in both hands. Andrews is not losing that.
No, no. Well, but, so the thing that comes into play in both these games is, especially in this game, the run game. We saw them stick with the run game. Now, it wasn't quite what the 4 of us have talked about before, is feed the hot hand. And we continue to see in this game, this is my biggest criticism. Mark Ingram was averaging about 2 yards a carry, and yet he's still out there before JK, who goes off on like a 16-yard run and then gets put on the sideline.
I think
What
Gus
the
Edwards
hell?
is making them both look bad.
Right.
Yeah, this wasn't a game to use the example of using the hot hand, because both Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, Lamar Jackson, I mean, even Mark Ingram on some of his runs looked good. You rushed for 296 yards as a team. That's what this team did well last year. That's what got them the 14-2 record last year, was leading the NFL in rushing. 296 yards. Again, now granted, it was against a piss-poor defensive front. The Cowboys' defensive front's one of the worst in the National Football League against the run. But still, this is the kind of ground and pound football that the Ravens need to get back to if they want to be successful, and I think if they want to carry themselves into a playoff spot.
If you guys can remember last year, 2019, before the mouth of hell opened, the turnaround point of that season was what? When we threw the special teams off the field and went for it on 4th down.
Yeah.
We had that moment in this game. And
100%.
it was only Lamar's call. Like everyone else was wandering slowly. And Lamar's like, get off my field. I got this.
All right.
And that's 4th and 2 goes for a 57-yard rushing touchdown.
Just so you know, Mark Ingram had 4.7 yards per carry in that game, just to make sure. I was going to say, I knew it wasn't 2 yards.
But he started with,
wasn't
he started
14.2.
He started off like 2 yards.
He started. That's what I said. I said he started at 2 yards a carry. He was barely getting past the line of scrimmage at the beginning of the game, especially in the first quarter. So that was my point. But all right, Ryan, you had to say special teams, didn't you? Just like they had to talk about the 70 straight field goals within 40 yards for Justin Tucker. Yet again, the curse of the commentators comes out.
Yeah, the commentator curse is definitely a thing at this point. Like, Christ, I mean, literally, how do you make 70 straight field goals with inside the 40, and the minute somebody says something about it, you miss it in your own home stadium with no fans? Now, granted, it was a windy night, but what the hell?
There were a
is
lot
that?
of missed field goals that night. I don't know if it was 100%.
There were a few rookie. There were
Yeah,
a
it
few
was a lot of
rookie kickers on the field at the time. So, or no,
Right.
Boswell
Greg
missed a few.
I was going to say,
not a
Greg the
rookie kicker.
Leg missed,
He's a
what,
really
5
good
field goals
kicker.
in this game?
They can trot my ass. That's over.
Yeah, right?
He missed as many kicks as I would have.
Anyway, so that whole thing, like, you saw as soon as it happened, Tucker, like, his face, they immediately went to him and his face was like motherfucker. Like that.
Yeah, but you know what? He bounced back on his next kick.
Right.
He made the field goal. It's not going to do, any harm.
That's why he's the
It was
best kicker.
so close. How was that not challenged? How did we not go to a camera angle on that?
I know. Go ahead, Drew.
But how do you have a false start by Bozeman on a fucking field goal?
I know.
Like,
know.
it's a field goal. Come on. Like,
Yeah.
it's not.
Hold your ground.
If we're not getting a first round center next year, I don't know what we're doing because I don't know what's going on with our offensive line. They're snapping balls over heads.
It was one bad snap. I'm not going to throw in the
every
towel.
game. It's every game.
No,
It's
the
separate-
problems with
it's
the
separate
snaps were
guys.
Skura. The problems
Right.
with the snaps were Skura. Since McCarry's been in there, they haven't had a problem with snaps. It was literally one snap.
And that's
Look, for
still,
the
I'm
average
not
fan,
throwing
if
the
you
towel
know
in
the
the car.
center's name, the center's a problem. And people know their name at this point.
Okay.
anyway.
I don't know. I'm more concerned with how the defense looked in this game. Defense was rough. You got Andy Dalton leading the Cowboys out there, and Andy Dalton marched up and down the field against this secondary that we all boasted in the beginning of the year as being one of the best secondaries in the league. Now, granted, they were missing Jimmy Smith.
Yeah.
I get
Yeah.
that, and Jimmy Smith is a big factor.
Huge.
We did get Anthony Averett, which he's cheeks. Said that 100 times last night.
I don't know how many
He's
times I saw it in
bad.
the chat last night. Jesus. But no, like
Granted, it was his first game back, but man, they were exploiting him.
they
bad.
were exploiting him. The other thing, like they talked about it pregame when they were talking about Calais Campbell, and I think it was who's the bald headed guy that they were talking to pregame? I've drawn a freaking blank. Jay Glazer. They were talking with Jay
okay.
Glazer pregame, and he was saying he talked with Calais, and Calais was saying that he was feeling about 85%. But Fred,
He was like 45.
I was going to say, Fred, you said you didn't feel like he was even close to that.
No, he was like 40% out there. He looked like a 60-year-old man coming out there to play NFL football. He couldn't move. He had no speed. Like he couldn't chase Andy Dalton down. Get out of here. He looked rough. I get it that like you want your Pro Bowl type players out there, especially in a quote unquote must win, if you want to get into the playoffs, that kind of thing. But man, it's not worth the risk to me for further injury. When you've got guys, you did have Brandon Williams back out there, which
Huge.
Brandon Williams looked good in this game. He was about the
Williams,
one.
yeah.
He was a force.
He was
to
about
be
the
reckoned
one
with.
bright spot in this defense in this game.
Hey, he's back and we win. That continues his little thing of when he's not in, we usually lose.
Yeah. I just can't figure this defense out, man. The defense looked good 2 weeks ago against the Steelers. Without them, they get those guys back, and then, like I said, Andy Dalton's marching up and down the field. Ezekiel Elliott looked more like his old self than he had, at all this year. Like, it just, I don't know. The defensive front in this game did not have a good game. And like I said, the secondary, and it wasn't just not having Jimmy Smith out there. Marcus Peters got beat yet again in this game. Marlon got beat in this game for a touchdown.
I have to call this out. And I don't pay attention, honestly, at this point. I don't pay attention to Facebook anymore, but it occasionally comes up on my feed from some of the groups that I'm in. And if you're listening and you're in one of those groups, listen closely. For the person that sit there and said that Marlon Humphrey was worse than Marcus Peters, get the hell out of here. Marlon Humphrey, he got, he had an okay game. It wasn't his best game. I'll admit that. But Marcus Peters, the continued idea of this risk versus reward is starting to hurt us on a regular basis. I know we won this game.
I think the
but
thing
still.
that frustrates me with Marcus Peters the most is just sometimes it looks like effort. You know what I mean? Like, that the
Fair enough,
talent's
yeah.
there,
Okay.
and you know how good he is. And I get the gambling part of Marcus Peters, right? And I know he's going to make some boom plays and he's going to make some bust plays. I get that. It just seems the bust plays continue to happen week in and week out. We haven't seen anything. We haven't seen any big plays. We haven't had any pick sixes that kind of offset those, right?
The thing with Marcus though is it would be one thing if he's reading the quarterback's eyes the whole way. It's not like these quarterbacks are looking Marcus Peters off. He's getting beat. He's just straight getting beat on some of these routes because he's trying to press too much and hope that they're going to do this under route, and they wind up going over him. And every time it feels like that he gets beat over top, they're going to him. And
it's funny is like last night, right? As I'm watching this game, I was thinking about it. I was like, Amari Cooper is the Marcus Peters of wide receivers. Like, you know that Amari Cooper is like this super talented wide receiver. And when he turns it on, he can be one of the best wide receivers in the game. It's like Marcus Peters. When he turns it on, he can be one of the best corners in the game. But then he'll go like missing for a long time. And he just doesn't look like he just doesn't look like he puts in 100% effort at times. And I feel like Marcus Peters suffers from that same disease. Well, Amari Cooper made Marcus Peters look like an idiot last night.
Oh yeah, he did. He made him look silly. Like, it was ridiculous. He got past him not just once, but 2 or 3 times he got past him for a reception and big yardage. That was the problem. And to have him on that, I put that a little bit on Wink, that you got to look at those matchups. I understand what's happening, but at some point, if they're going to Amari and he's beating Marcus, flip it for a series.
Yeah.
Let Marlon cover him. See what happens. Maybe the payoff of Marcus switching, maybe he gets an interception, but you continued to stick with him being on Amari Cooper. It wound up hurting us. Anthony Averett was another guy that he just looked rough.
Looked like cheeks.
I got to go back to Marcus Peters for that. It's been true for a long time. Marcus Peters was great in the NFC Championship Rams team. The next year they become non-competitive and he disappears. He gets traded to us, who was a competitor at the time, and goes off. And now we lose 3 out of 4 and he disappears. So it's like he's only playing for a Super Bowl. And as soon as he checks that off his list, it's like, we're not winning the Super Bowl. I'm just going to collect my check.
Right. And that's
so it seems that's at least
it
3
seems
years
to be
of
what
pattern.
it is. 100%. I agree with that. Sticking in the secondary, this is something that kind of jumped out to me last night and just thinking about it, and I wanted to get your guys' opinions on it, right? So I think we all agree that Deshaun Elliott has been a very good safety in replacement of Earl Thomas, right? I think we all wanted to see him stay healthy and all get his opportunity. My question is, just watching him play now, we're 14 weeks into the season, or 13 weeks through the season, going into week 14. There's something missing about his game from a free safety standpoint.
I'm not blown away by him.
He doesn't have that ball hawking, and I get it. We're spoiled, right? We're spoiled by Ed Reed, and we have a very high bar. I get that. But a free safety is supposed to be a guy who is rangy and who goes and plays the ball. With him, as hard hitting as he is and liking to play in the box and all of that, to me, he seems like a strong safety playing out of position at this point. But when you got him and, I just don't know what you do with Chuck Clark out there. You can't put Chuck Clark as a free safety because that's not his game either.
No, it's not his game. And this is where I think when he's in the lineup, this is where I think you make the move on Jimmy Smith. Jimmy Smith becomes.
Jimmy Smith's got to stay healthy too.
Agreed with that. But when he's on the field, if you put him in that free safety position, Jimmy Smith has the ability to read a QB. And hear me out on this. If Jimmy Smith's not on the field, if we can get more depth at the cornerback position, I'm curious to get your take on this. With how he plays, could Marcus Peters make a transition to a free safety position and really exploit things the way he's risk versus reward?
Nah, I don't think you do that.
I'm saying long term.
Yeah, I don't think it would be good. And listen, I'll be honest with you. When Jimmy's been healthy this year and when he's been on the field, he's been our best corner this year. Like, and I wouldn't want to take that away and put him at safety. I'm not saying that at all. I do think that maybe long term for Jimmy Smith, he might have to eventually move to the safety position. And I think that he has the ability, he has the football IQ, he's got the speed to be able to play the safety position. I just think that as as solid as I thought we were at the safety position, I don't think I'm ready to say that Deshaun Elliott is our true free safety of the future, that might be something on the Ravens wish list come offseason, come draft. Now, granted, there's other priorities, but I do think that that's something that the Ravens will look at next year.
I think they have to explore the options. You know, you and I were talking about this pre-show. He had that blatant pass interference call against CeeDee Lamb that should have been called and wasn't. And that's him playing his man, not the ball, as a free safety kind of should.
Right.
But then do you then put that a little bit on Wink for putting him in that position to have to play man versus zone? It seems like to me they later in the game, they move a little bit more towards a man coverage versus zone coverage. Am I wrong on that?
I don't know. It's schemes. It's what Wink Martindale does. It's what he draws up. I think a lot of times he leaves guys out there on islands, right? Because he tries to create so much pressure consistently. And that was another thing. So let's talk a little bit about that. That was another thing that was absolutely non-existent in this game, right? The Dallas Cowboys do not have a very good offensive line, right? They did years ago. They don't have a very good offensive line right now. And obviously we didn't have Matt Judon out there because of COVID, right? You got Calais Campbell out there at about 40, 50%. He's nowhere near what he normally would be. Yannick, now, I know he's getting pressures, but he hasn't been able to get home yet at all since he's been here. And, you know, we didn't see anything out of any of the other guys in this. We had one sack in this game, and it came from Ward, the guy that you would least expect the sack come from. I don't know. To me, pass rush is a big area of opportunity still with this team, even after getting a guy like Yannick in the fold.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some. We knew that was something they need to work on, and I think we thought that Yannick could really help it. But I can't say a lot in this game because you're missing Judon, and you also know that Calais Campbell isn't fully healthy. So we know that Calais has been getting enough pressure to be able to get his hand on the ball fairly consistently. And we know that Brandon Williams plays a big game in the rushing game. Yannick, I think, helps with that as well. Judon sets the edge on the outside. Maybe he's not getting the sacks that he is, but he's still getting the pressures that are there. So when these guys are there and healthy, I think we do see a difference. It's not the numbers that we all thought they would be with the high sacks and everything like that, but when you create pressure, you create turnovers. We've seen this is a team that can, from a defensive standpoint, create turnovers on a regular basis. I think we were, 11 or 4, or I think it may have been 14 straight games that we had a turnover at one point, right?
Yeah.
So it's there. This defense can do it. And when you do that, a lot of those turnovers I know are coming from the secondary, but it's sometimes rush throws and not seeing the guy that's wide open and seeing the guy that's covered well against Marlin who's able to punch out the ball.
I was going to say, a lot of those turnovers have come from punch-outs as
right.
well.
But at the same time, it's one of those things that, are these guys able to create pressure? Yes, they are. Are they getting to the quarterback and finishing, like you said? No. But I don't know where your fix is right now. I can't say.
Right. Well, listen, the Ravens got to figure it out, right? Because they're sitting right now at 7-5 from the outside looking in as far as the playoffs go. And I get it. They don't have the hardest or the toughest of schedules coming up, but they've got a very tough schedule or a very tough game coming up this week.
Yeah.
This is going to be their toughest matchup, I think, left on the schedule as they go on the road for Monday Night Football against the 9-3. Let me say that again. The 9-3 Cleveland Browns in Cleveland.
I'm going to pause you there for a second because you can say 9-3 and everybody's going, oh, this is a 9-3 team with a negative point differential. How the hell does that happen?
because Baltimore and Pittsburgh blew the shit out of them already.
Right.
But that's my point.
And all their other games were in the monsoon storms, so nobody scored any points.
I'll give them credit for what they did to Tennessee.
Yeah,
agreed.
It was an impressive win.
For Christ's sake, I mean, you play the schedule you're on. I mean, I get that. But
I hope a lot of points are scored because I got a couple of fantasy championships that lean on some Browns running backs. I want the Ravens to win.
Well, the Browns sit right now at second place in the North. We're behind them, regardless of how we got in there or how the Browns have gotten there. They're 9-3. We're not. We're sitting at 7-5. We're behind them. So this is a very important game, I think, for the Ravens in many ways. If they, like I said, if they want to get into one of these wild cards, now granted, thank God we've got 3 wild card chances this year versus a normal 2.
Yeah.
So we do have that extra slot to get in there. Dez is going to have to miss this game due to the COVID role because he won't be cleared in time for the game, so
Still,
he's out.
I was going to say, still a huge question mark surrounding COVID with this game because we don't know what's going to come out of the situation with Dez. He was at practice, he was at the facility. If he had it 2 to 3 days beforehand and passed it along to somebody in the locker room, we won't know then. We won't know if he passed it on the field to anybody or in the locker room game day to anybody or if he passed it over to the Dallas Cowboys to anybody. There's still a lot of question marks. So as of right now, you say Dez is out of this game and he's the only one, and everybody else is, supposed to return. But there's a big question mark here because we could wind up losing the other half of our starters if
Didn't he
had
also
contact with
retire
him.
via Twitter?
Yeah, and then unretired.
And then
Unretired.
unretired,
Hey,
yes.
a good win team at the end of the night, though. So
Okay, good.
Exactly.
After he told everybody to show their wine glass with him, he was COVID positive drinking wine, people. This is what we're doing.
he might see like 10 snaps the rest of the season.
Well, the Ravens will get back some key cogs as they'll get Mark Andrews, Lamar's security blanket. We just talked about Matt Judon. We will have that other edge rusher out there, which we're going to need in this game because the ticket for the Browns beating the Ravens is controlling the ground game and running the ball down our throats with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I know that's what Ryan wants to hear because of fantasy purposes, but that's been their
And
MO.
we win by 1 point.
That's been their MO. They combined for 132 yards against us last game. Now, granted, we beat their ass last game, 38-6 in the opener this year. I mean, we beat them bad. But these are 2 teams at 2 different points. We were still riding the high of last year. We had everybody healthy going into that season opener. The Browns had a lot of question marks as to what they were doing. And OBJ was talking about being traded. Like all this shit was going on at that time. Well, a lot of things have settled down for the Browns. They're playing better. Baker Mayfield's playing a lot better than he's played throughout his career. He looks more like he did his rookie year. I don't know. I don't think this is going to be a walk in the park by any means. We are not beating the Browns 38-6 this time, I don't believe.
No, it's not going to happen. I mean, the last time you talked about 38-6, right? Lamar threw 275 yards and 3 TDs. I don't know that we've seen that much out of him the rest of the season. And he rushed for only 45 yards, one of his lower of the season. So it's a completely different situation. It's a completely different scenario. I hope they come out with a game plan that really caters to what we do best with that run game, then opens up the passing game. But from a defensive standpoint, like you said, we've got to stop Chubb. You've got to stop Baker. When Baker gets the ball out quick, Baker's deadly. He can be deadly. And when he starts opening up those routes across the middle, the tight ends and everything, that's what opens up the downfield passes we see out of him. He opens it up early in the beginning of the game and just continues to target the guys that he needs to and get the big points.
The thing I've noticed about Baker throughout his career is you can't let him get comfortable. You can't let him get confident early on in the game. You got to get after him early and often. You got to make him uncomfortable from the get-go. If you do that, he gets kind of out of sorts and he starts forcing balls, and that's where he starts making bad decisions and making turnovers. So the pass rush, in my opinion, is going to have to take a big step from this past week to this week against the Browns, because if they want to be successful. Now, listen, I told you this before. The Browns have a much better offensive line than they had last year. That's a big part of Baker's success this year is he's got a lot of time back there. So this is going to be a big task for the Ravens defensive front. They've got to get after Baker.
Agreed. So I'm going to ask you guys a question, right? Because we saw this matchup before. These teams are in 2 different situations now. So does this game, and Fred, we'll start with you, does this game come down to talent or coaching?
I think this comes down to coaching. I'll be honest with you. I think this is going to be a very close game. We'll talk about our predictions here in a minute. I think it's going to be a very close game. And you got the seasoned vet in John Harbaugh, who's been around for a very long time, since 2008, right? And I think that was his first year, so he's been with the club now for 12 years, going against Stefanski from the Vikings, who has really, I mean, in a little bit of time that he's been there, turned this club around with basically essentially the same personnel. He upgraded some on the offensive line, and you can see just the difference in the way that this offense operates. They're very much improved in that sense. And that's what he was known for in Minnesota, right? I like what Stefanski's doing in there in Cleveland.
All right,
so this is going to come down. I think the bigger factor is going to be coaching. Does Harbaugh make a stupid timeout, call a stupid timeout? Does he not use his, the last 2 minutes of the first half the right way, the last 2 minutes of the game the right way? Like, there's just so many in-game decisions that you scratch your head with Harbaugh that I haven't seen that with Stefanski.
Yeah,
you just reminded me. Did we not challenge the interception by Fort that had a
right
down with
clear.
the ball controlled?
Right,
very, very clear. Drew, what do you think? Is this come down to coaching or talent?
It's coaching. I think. I mean, I think they are very evenly matched. You have two teams that want to run the ball at will, can run the ball at will. Baker's not a runner like Lamar, but they're both very capable quarterbacks to be able to lead your team to victories.
All right.
The defensive side is what kind of I look at as, I hate to say it, I think Cleveland has the edge there because of the pass rush.
Yeah.
Their secondary, I don't think their secondary is as good as ours, but you've seen what happens when we don't have a pass rush.
Yep.
And you said, you need to kick his ass early and often. I mean, the Jets of all people did it last year.
Yep.
I mean, teams have proven that that's what you need to do is make this kid take the cockiness right out of his goddamn head from the get-go. Because if you let him get up 14 points like Tennessee did,
it's
you
over.
can see it in it fueled the team.
Force him to make bad decisions. That's what you got to do.
To me, it is. They're so evenly matched. It does come down to coaching. You've got a guy that's. If things go, I could see him being the coach of the year in Stefanski. But you got a rookie coach versus a veteran coach that's been there, done that before. So you need to go out there and prove that you've been there, done that before. And like you said, no stupid shit.
Yeah.
Call a timeout at the right goddamn time. Don't throw a challenge flag on a first down questionable call when you know they're not going to return it because you couldn't see the ball. And then once it's the end of the second quarter and you're trying to get a touchdown to take the lead, then you ran out of time.
You don't have the time now.
Right.
100% agree. And I think, to your point, Myles Garrett, he's one of the most feared pass rushers in the NFL. So not having your, franchise left tackle out there and Ronnie Stanley, who we had week 1, you got Orlando Brown playing over there. Orlando Brown's done a good job, but we've all seen how erratic Lamar can get when he's not comfortable. Right. And Myles Garrett can make Lamar uncomfortable real quick.
Ryan, you on the same page there?
Almost. Well, first of all, you just got to keep your helmet on around Myles Garrett. That's the first thing.
Yes.
That's the best way to not make him terrifying. Then, second, I guess I lean coaching because I think it's more been like a motivation thing with this team. Like, there's been this, with the Steelers, you throw the records out, right? It's evenly matched. We know it's going to come in within 3 points. With the Browns, it's almost been like a motivation thing. Like, they came in feeling like no one respects us, and they beat the absolute snot out of us last year. In 2019, I was the only game I got to go to, sitting next to Fred and watching him fall into a puddle next to me as they wiped the floor with us.
Yeah, it was rough.
I was like, all right, Fred, I'm never coming again. and then the next year, the Ravens were like, we're going to take back our house. Like, they embarrassed us, and we're going to do the same thing to them. So, unfortunately, they probably have the motivation here. They're the team that has to prove they fit. They're the ones hearing that, yeah, you haven't beat anyone that's a decent team. You have a negative point differential. You just got embarrassed by this team a couple weeks ago. So I think they're going to have some motivation. So we really got to pull it out. We got to edge this one out.
By the way, I can't go without letting this, sharing this chat question from Craig Zero. He says, can Fred outrun Scott?
100%. I got it.
Fred thinks he's better at everything than all of us. So
are we talking in 2020 or are we talking in 1999? When are we talking?
Yeah, 1999, I got my money on Fred. 2020, it's going to be embarrassing.
I'm still putting my nuts on your forehead with a dunk there, Ryan.
He keeps saying it. He won't do it.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, wait, please don't isolate that. That would be bad.
It's too late.
No isolation.
That's going down. 1 hour, 5 minutes in. I know where it's at. All right.
All right, man. Before we get into our primetime predictions, want to do a quick social media shout out.
Yeah, man.
We got all the regulars in here as always. I know. I appreciate you guys tuning in on a Wednesday night at 8:30. You guys are probably all snuggled up in your beds listening to Birdland BS. Look at these 4 ugly faces. I appreciate you. We appreciate you. Sam L. Jackson, appreciate you tuning in. Steve, Craig Zero, Garnett, Dominic, Lip. Who else we got?
Bleed Purple. Let's see.
Robbie.
Alex,
Chuck, as always, man. Appreciate you tuning in.
Alex Garnett. Gosh, there's so many. See, we already have a lot of these people. A lot of the same people have been chiming in.
Yeah, it's
Josh.
same guys as usual. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. But all right, man. Let's do it. Primetime predictions.
Straight
All right,
into
Scott,
it.
kick it off.
Straight into it, guys. So we're gonna just say this now. So 2 weeks ago, Fred had the pick to click with I think it was a Steelers game, or no, it was a Seahawks game.
Hey, Christopher, appreciate you tuning in too, man.
Appreciate
Sorry I
it,
missed
man. So you had the pick to click, Fred, about 2 weeks ago. You got it. You were within one. This week,
this guy.
yeah, this week,
Drew
had
This guy.
Drew had the pick to click this past week as a guest pick. to click.
Drew had like the honorary
Even though
pick
Fred
to
tried
click.
to rob me last night.
It's an honorary. You got like the Mo Gabba, pick the
There's
click.
no honorary.
God, bro.
Fred, that was
Damn.
The
uncalled for.
honorary one, the honorary. It's what we're gonna do is we're gonna name an honorary pick. The
I think
Mo
I've been around
Gabba
long
pick.
enough to not be called honorary at this point.
No, you have.
No.
You have
So,
for sure.
Drew,
That
you-
was almost dead on the money.
You had it 33-17.
The
It was
little part of me
34-17.
wanted Tucker to miss the extra point.
just because. But no, Fred, in our tracking, Fred also had the click out of the 5 that we track as of right now. Drew, you're going to get added for next year, and we're also going to see about trying to add a lot of the fans for next year. We're going to figure something out on that. But Fred also had the Ravens game, the closest. I don't know how, but Fred, you had the pick to click because you were within 7. Nobody beat within 7. The next closest was 11. So
I'll
how
take
the
it.
heck that happened this week, I don't know.
So
So
I'm
Fred,
ready to pick to click next week. We're just gonna announce it now. So
Fred has 8 pick to clicks. I have 1. Brian has 0. James has 1. Ryan has 4, and Drew has 1 honorary.
week.
Yeah, I can't be
All right,
honorary.
Scott, how do you
if I
got this game
one
going,
with
man?
Brian.
All right. So for me, the Ravens-Browns game, I look at this game, and this was literally a flip of the coin for me. I think this can go either way. It depends on it depends on what version of Baker Mayfield shows up to this game. If it's the version I think will show up against the Ravens, it's going to be a close game. And I think it's going to be within 3 points. I've got this being a Ravens win, 24-21. Fred, how do you have it?
I told you this game scares me, and I don't think that this is going to be anywhere near the game that it was week 1. These are 2 totally different teams. We got a lot of injuries. The Calais Campbell thing, especially against these 2 running backs, is going to be a big issue in this game. Hopefully Brandon Williams stays healthy and he's still in the lineup just to keep us in. But I don't think that this game goes well for the Ravens in the end. I think Baker Mayfield's running a hot hand right now. This secondary for us is kind of reeling. Is Jimmy Smith going to be healthy for this game, or is he not? I don't know. But Anthony Averett out there is not the answer right now. He just looks bad.
No.
I think the Browns do enough to win this game. I think the Browns win this 31-27. And that hurts me, man. Y'all know I got to pick my boys, but being realistic, I got to win this thing, right? I'm so close. Got 1 win over Ryan. I think the Browns win this 31-27.
All right. Drew, who do you got?
So I put the score down at first as 30-27, and then I swear I just sat there like, that's gonna be the score. Do I like what team do I really zero? I think the Ravens pull it out. I think that's one of those. It's gonna be a field goal late. I think I just picked a homer pick. I think I want to go with the Browns because I could see it scares me. I think
Yeah.
this is the kind of thing where if you play around, even from the get-go, you're gonna lose. You can't do what you've done to Tennessee where you should have beat them. You can't do what you did to Pittsburgh the first go around where you should have beat them. you need to end up coming out here and kind of almost being like the Colts game, where at some point you go into overdrive and you take this gap and then you never look back and you just hold them off. I want to see that happen, but it's gonna be close. But I got the Ravens taking it 30-27.
All right, so Brian, I'm going to say Brian has this being 42-20 in favor of the Browns. He thinks the Ravens, in a sense,
God,
are
I
going to
hope
get
he's
somewhat
not
blown
right.
out. I hope he's not right, but
And
in
if
a
all the
It's kinda
Cowboys
close
won
again.
also.
right,
I can't go through another slaughter against the Browns. I don't want to do that.
We will say that Brian
No.
is in last place at this point and picked the Cowboys to win last week. And so did his counterpart, James, who also has the Browns winning in a much closer affair of 27-23. So, Ryan, are you going to tie this up or are you going to lean towards the Browns?
No, I'm taking the Ravens. Can you help me out with my score? Because my phone's really screwing with my mic. I don't want to change the score on you.
You had 42-31. So you have this being more than a one-score game in favor of the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can take what we did last week. When we had the lineman injuries, when we lost Ronnie Stanley a couple weeks ago, I came on here and I said, we're not going to have a choice. We have to run the ball. We have to go forward now. And yesterday was the very first time that I saw that. I saw that we're just going to do this. We're going forward.
We're gonna
If it
commit
doesn't
to
work, yeah, we're going to commit to it. We're not going to pull it out. We're not going to change on, as soon as you have a 2nd and 10, now we're throwing the ball. No, you just run again because 3 runs ago you had a 30-yard run. So try it with 10 yards to go too. So just commit to it. So I think we can put up good points. I'm probably a little high on the scores because, again, the homer picks for trying to make fantasy work. But I went with that score.
All right.
Ravens 42-31. All right. Thursday night football. This was a tough week for me, at least. This was a tough week of primetime games.
Yes.
All 3 of these games, I legit had to sit there and really think about who I was going to pick. As you got the Patriots going against the Rams. And the Patriots, this, for me, if you'd asked me 3 weeks ago, 100% I would have said the Rams and not even thought twice about it. The Patriots just beat the Los Angeles Chargers. What was it, 45-0 or some crazy shit like that? They just blew the Chargers out. And I think Cam Newton threw for like 60 yards. Like somehow they scored 45 points and threw for 60 yards.
69.
Yeah, there it is, 69 yards, right. So I don't know how the Patriots are doing this, but they're going to figure out a way to stay in this game. But I think Sean McVay and the Rams do just enough to edge them out. I've got the Rams winning this 28-27 in a nail biter.
All right, I'm actually on the flip side. I do think it's a close game. It's going to come down to one score. And I actually went with the same score that I did for the Ravens, 24-21 in favor of the Patriots here. The Patriots impressed me to an extent with the game against the Chargers. Now, I know the Chargers were missing some pieces, but to completely shut them out, the defense was able to step up, and the offense was able to put up numbers with the run game that has been, up to this point, okay. So I saw some things that I liked out of the Patriots. The Rams, they lost crap. I forget the name of their left tackle.
Whitworth.
Andrew Whitworth. He's gone. He's out for the season. He doesn't. So Goff has no protection on that left side as far as I'm concerned. This offensive line has been hit or miss all year. The defense has been hit or miss all year for them. I just look at this and I feel this is going to be a game that the Patriots kind of say put up or shut up, and they're going to put up in this game. And I think it's going to be 24-21 Patriots.
Drew, what do you got?
I got it. Rams 20-10. The Pats. That Rams defense is really clicking. It's almost starting to be real reminiscent of their Super Bowl run. I think if they don't stop Donald, and the other guy's name always escapes me, but I just think they do. They look like what they used to look like on defense. I think the only way the Pats pull this off is if it's evil Jared Goff that just is throwing terrible throws, and or they're not protecting him, and they just win the turnover battle. But
Right.
I've seen the Rams lately be pretty damn dominant on defense. So yeah, 20-10 Rams.
All right, Ryan, what do you got?
That special teams and defense last week for the Patriots looked like the one that was winning fantasy games for people by themselves last year.
Yeah.
I think that Bill Belichick's number one thing is taking away your best weapon. Woods is erased from this game, and the running game for the Rams isn't scary enough to do anything for me. So I'm taking the Patriots. Again, I'm going to lean to Scott. So
24-17.
24-17.
Yeah.
All right. Brian's got the Patriots winning this 24-13, so he's with you, Ryan. And James is with me. He's got the Rams winning this 31-21 and a 10-point win.
All right.
Sunday night football.
I was going to say, let's look at Sunday night because this is the game that I think has the potential to be the game of the week to watch.
Has the potential to be a playoff match.
Yeah. Steelers at the Bills. I'm going to start, and I'm doing this on purpose. I'm going to start with Drew. Drew, where do you stand on this game? Steelers at Bills, Sunday Night Football.
I got the Bills 28-20 over the Steelers.
So it is a clean sweep.
It's a clean sweep. I when I first started thinking about it, I was thinking about the Steelers being able to bounce back, but something in my head just cannot get over this 5 yards like an attempt and winning. It's almost like what Ryan said. I mean, just said about the New England defense and special teams. That seemed like that was carrying them for like what, 9? Were they 9-0 before we beat them? Whatever it was, they had that little niche that was like carrying them. All right, this has been carrying you at some point, and you showed this week. It's not going to work. And Josh Allen deserves a lot of credit for what he's doing this year.
100%.
Yeah.
He came out right away a lot of times early, and like the first month, and it was like, oh, MVP this. And then he had some hiccups. But it's not – he's got to that point where no moment ever looks too big for him, and he's not relying on just, all right, I'm going to throw it 30 yards down the field and hope a guy's there to catch it.
He's made the adjustments, and the offensive coordinator has also made the adjustments to suit his game. And when he's struggling at certain times, you bring in the run game or you do the short overpasses. You don't go look for the deep ball all the time. It's worked for them. And I think that's why we're all on the same page, that the Steelers are that 11-1 team that really probably shouldn't be 11-1. And now they're going to go against a team that has a hot hand, that it seems like all cylinders are clicking for them. And I think we all agree that the Bills have this game. It's just a matter of how close does this become? Because some of us have this being a 1-score game. Some of us have this being a 2-score game. So I've got this being a 1-score game. I've got it being a 30-24 Bills win. I think they can pull it out, and I think they pull it out late, honestly. I think there's going to be evenly matched until it gets down to the fourth quarter, and I think that Josh Allen is going to be able to put it together and be able to take this team and drive down the field, score a touchdown at the end of the game, and make it a 30-24 game. Brian has 42-30. James has 37-24. Ryan, you said 35-21 in this game, so you think it's going to be a little bit bigger of a blowout. You think Josh Allen?
I'm wearing Diggsy's jersey. What are we doing here? He's going to embarrass them. Stephon Diggs going to take it to him. Josh Allen's going to give him the Beasles and make him look like an all-star.
The Beasles is going to be the embarrassing part.
Beasley's way too old and way not skilled enough to be playing in the NFL, and he keeps doing it. He keeps making it work. So I think that even without almost any running game outside of Josh Allen's running skills, they've been playing amazing. And I picked the wrong Terp in my fantasy leagues. I should have gone with Diggs across the board.
All right, Fred, what do you got this one? How close you got it?
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a close game, and I think the only reason it's close is because I do think that, yes, the Ravens exposed some things with the Steelers, and even Chase Young said that himself, you know, when the Washington team ended up beating the Steelers.
Thanks,
so
Chase.
I think there's some film out there and some things that this Bills defense is going to exploit against the Steelers, but you can't forget the Steelers also have a very good defense still as well. So I think this game will be close. I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be a little lower scoring than some of you guys are going with. I do believe in Josh Allen. Like, listen, this is a guy that out of the draft, I thought he had Kyle Bowler written all over him. Another guy with a big arm that can't throw, you know, accurate at all. He wasn't going to amount to anything. The Bills, you know, reached for this guy. But he's proven me and a lot of other doubters out there wrong. He looks really, really good this year. And I do think that you have to start talking about him in the potential for MVP conversation because Russell Wilson's fallen off a lot. Kyler Murray doesn't look like what he did in the beginning of the year. Like, there really aren't any standout guys outside of Josh Allen. Josh Allen's been really consistent this year.
Josh Allen, the thing with him too is it's the right guy in the right scheme with the right weapons.
Right.
That's
With
why
a
it's
great
working for the
coaching
Bills.
staff.
Right.
With a great coaching staff.
Yeah,
Exactly.
well, that's why I was giving credit to the scheming, because they're the ones that are coming up with this setup. It's them that's ultimately responsible, but it's the right guys at the right time with the right staff.
Here's where the Bills are totally different than the Ravens, right? They went out and got themselves a true number one receiver to put around their franchise quarterback. They went out and got a guy like Stephon Diggs. There was all this talk about the Ravens were so close on, Hopkins, and they were so close on this guy. Like, could you imagine how different this team might look if we had a guy like Hopkins in the fold? I don't know. I don't know if it would be a great thing
How
or
are you
not.
close on Hopkins?
What's
they
that?
gave him nothing to get Hopkins.
I know.
So what was our stupid offer that was below what they got for Hopkins?
I know.
don't understand.
We're still talking about Bill O'Brien. He could have just said something like John Harbaugh gypped on a tip at a fucking restaurant one day.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Moron.
absolutely true.
Oh, man.
I do, though. I got the Bills winning this 24-19.
I hit the button early.
That's all right. I got the Bills winning this one 24-19. All right, Scott, it's time for the Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. We got 4 guys in here, and only one has the Liquor Stop Brew of the Week this week. So what are you drinking, and how good is it?
I got the
I'm gonna
keys.
lean in and try to smell it.
I got the keys to the kingdom. Here you go, Brian. Here you go, Ryan. Try to smell. There you go. This is actually, so we know we've had Union Brewing beers before. We've had the Duck Pin Ale, which we know is good. This is Union's holiday beer. So this is something they put out annually in tribute to the light display on Hamden's 34th Street, Miracle on 34th Street. This is Miracle Weizenbach. So it is considered a dark wheat ale. It's unfiltered. It's 7.9% ABV. It's very, it's not necessarily Bach taste to me, because I've had some Bachs. It's a little bit closer to a stout, but not quite as heavy as a stout is. But it's actually not bad. It's not something I'm going to sit there and drink 3 or 4 of, or even what, it's a 1, maybe 2 kind of thing. I could see a bonfire, right? Sitting out in front of a bonfire, sitting in front of a fire, sitting back, having one of these. But it's not something that I would sit there and have 2 or 3 of.
At 7.9% ABV, you probably only want 2 or 3 of those. It's gonna be a long night.
But that's what I'm saying. I would probably have 1 or 2, because the flavor is very strong. It is. The hot bite at the end is there. You get the little bit of a coffee type stout, which is the dark wheat type flavor that you get. So it's kind of that in between. It isn't bad though. I'll get you guys a can of this each here this coming week. We'll figure out a way to drop it off to you guys, but it's not bad. So it's Miracle Weizenbach from Union Brewery. It's not bad. What are you guys drinking then? So if you're not drinking the brew of the week, what are you drinking?
You gotta keep drinking this stuff, guys. Keep
There
it
it
on my
is.
shelves. Keep drinking on my shelves.
Twinsies.
Okay.
Hey,
You twinsies are beat with the guy that's holding the broken skull.
Yeah.
Hey,
Simple
man,
as that.
I don't know,
I
man.
swear by
These are
this
some-
shit now.
These are some of our favorites for the show, for sure.
please keep them bottling this. Buy it. It's
Yes.
a great
Yes.
Christmas beer. Have it for your non-existing Christmas parties that nobody can have.
By the
Just
way,
drink by yourself and think about a party.
so last night I was drinking. I sent you guys the picture. I was drinking this stuff. Have you guys had this yet? This Captain Morgan sliced apple.
I have not.
Have you had an apple crown?
Yeah.
Better apple flavor.
Is that a
Okay.
70 proof captain or a 100 proof captain? Because 100 proof captain makes me do bad things.
Let's see.
Means anybody do bad
It's
things.
a 35% ABV.
All right, good. We're good. I can handle
yeah.
that.
There you go. So yeah, but no, go to Liquor Stop. Make sure you guys stop by Liquor Stop. Let them know that Birdland BS sent you. Get 10%
And-
off. Go ahead.
Don't forget as well, if you haven't checked it out yet, for those that were asking.
Oh yeah.
Go to the website, birdlandbs.com. There's a section on there called the brews. I'm going to put all of our brews on there. I've already got the last 4 or 5 that we've drank on there.
I
I'll
gotta
make
send you
sure
a
I put
picture of
this
this
week's
now.
on there with links to, the different brewing companies. So if you guys want to check out what we've been drinking on the show, that's a good spot to find it. All right, fellas, it's time for some Shell and Tell.
So
Ryan.
this is the part that Ryan actually showed up for. So I'm
And now
gonna
it's only James watching because everyone's checked out.
I'm gonna sit back and let you two go at this, but I'll kind of
I'll
moderate.
I'll take the break too.
I'll moderate a little bit. So
I had to re-beer for the Shell and Tell segment.
there you go. So let's
Well, we just
lead you guys. I was gonna say, let's lead you guys into this because I want to take a step back 2 weeks here, because we didn't obviously last week with everything going on with the Ravens game. It was hard to get a show going, so we weren't able to talk about what happened in that loss to Indiana. They lost 27-12. Take a quick minute. What did you guys see in that game? What did you think, and what were your takeaways from that game?
It was a loss before the game ever started. I mean, we didn't ended up suiting up 23 of our guys out there on the field.
Shouldn't have been that close.
Yeah, there's no the fact that they were able to keep this within a 2 to 3 score game, to me speaks volumes. I mean, it also goes to show, it also goes to show the kind of depth. Now, Talia didn't have his best game. He took a step back. He looked a little bit rusty. He looked a little bit uncomfortable, and that's, I guess, I understand it. You know, he lost 2 of his offensive linemen in this game. Yeah. He lost one of his top targets at wide receiver, so one of his playmakers. He's got his running back out there, the bell cow running back out there.
He lost 2 wide receivers for that game, right? He lost both Jarrett and Jones.
Yes.
Yes, right. Yeah. You're right. So he lost 2 of his targets. That's correct. So to be able to, again, keep this game within 3 scores against the number 12 team in the country, I left comfortable and impressed.
I've left very impressed. Yeah, again, we had 23 players out, and unfortunately it wasn't hitting the backup room. It was our number 1 safety, our number 1 cornerback, our number 1 running back, our number 2 and 3 wide receivers. Like, it was at 2 linemen, 2 starting linemen. So I think what we've seen is the reason Scott didn't like Talia is Talia's young. He's real young. Pressure is getting to him. He's got 3 more years this year and 2 more years to play. He had no starting experience at Alabama, really no playing experience at Alabama. So week 1, we saw it as soon as he threw an interception, he kept trying to score 14 points a pass, and it fell apart. And it looked a lot this week, or that week, like he had decided, if we're going to win, I have to have a game like Minnesota, and I have to carry us.
Right.
And from the he was all over the place.
I'm glad
go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the things. Like, this is the second game now. They've played, 5 games at this point? 4 games?
4.
So it's 4 games. So second game in 4 games with 3+ interceptions, right? So I guess I know that it's a small sample size, right?
He snowballs. When it goes bad quick.
Right, it does. But I guess my question is what do you then attribute that to? If you see such talent, both of you guys, the first week when I was calling saying I'd love to see Lance in there, I'd rather see Lance in there, especially after the second interception and how he was playing. The vision just wasn't there. He's missing passes. It wasn't just the interceptions. What are you seeing out of him that gives you that drive to continue to say, keep the kid in and not bring in a guy that was fairly highly touted in Lance Lejean?
Well, let's bring up first, you didn't have that option this week. He was also one of the 23 players that was inactive for this game. So your next quarterback was a non-scholarship walk-on.
Hey, Ryan,
added to the pressure of staying healthy.
Ryan,
see the
in
thing
the
with Talia,
we call that a set serve spike.
The thing with Talia is, though, I don't really grade his first game in any way, in positive or negative, because there was a lot on the line. It was they didn't have hardly any practice time together. It's his first start as a collegiate quarterback. Again, what Ryan and I said, we didn't see a lack of talent. We saw poor decisions in that game. You know, you could see that I think the pressure of it, just the anxiety of being out there in your first start kind of got to him. So I give him a pass on that first game. This game, it came down to, again, a comfortability thing. I think, that not having his 2 starting offensive linemen out there, including, his starting center, right? There's a comfort that you have when you're taking snaps from a center. You got somebody different out there. There's that. You got 2 of your biggest targets missing. The 2 games that he's played with all of his weapons out there and with his team intact, I see accuracy. I see the ability to throw the ball on the run, make smart decisions. He can make plays with his feet. I think he gives us our best chance at winning. And to Ryan's point, he's just so young and so early in his career that he's going to continue to get better. I think this was a bump in the road with just the lack of availability for teammates that he had around him.
So I was hoping. Go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead, Ryan.
I just don't want to skip over what the defense did in this because, again, they were down just as many players with your safety, your corner, multiple linemen out. And at halftime, they changed my mind. I didn't want to play this game. I said, why are you going to expose this team down 23, including your best players, to the number, I think, 12 team in the country at that point? Why would you do that? And the answer that a lot of fans gave was experience. Well, it was more than experience. We saw what our depth did. At halftime, this was a 7-3 game. Like, I had changed my mind. I was like, you know what? The scariest thing you can give a bad team, which is what I considered us in that moment, hope.
Yeah.
So after halftime, I thought we were going to win, but it just turned out Talia couldn't get his head on straight, and the defense was just staying on the field, and eventually they got tired and just got blown.
So one of the things that I think was telling in this game as far as stats was I looked at third down efficiency, and I think it told the tale of both teams, right? Because Maryland was 4 for 14. They just could not get their offensive going. They were trying to force situations on third down. It just wasn't happening. It wasn't there, and it may have had to do with that comfortability. But the other thing was, when you look at what they were able to do on the defensive side of the ball, they held them to a third down efficiency of 6 for 16. And a lot of that came in the second half because in the first half, they weren't even getting to third down. It was first down, second down, first down, first down, second down, first down. The second half, they were really holding them pretty well on the defensive front.
Yeah, and their quarterback is a pretty good quarterback. I mean, they're the number 12 team in the country, right? He's played well all year. And again, when you're missing, your starting safety out there in Nick Cross, I think the secondary played great in this game. They only gave up 115 yards through the air in this game. Secondary played great. They continue to struggle with the run game. That's been a problem with this team all year. So we do need to see improvement in that area. But I had a lot of question marks with this team in the secondary going into this year. Outside of Nick Cross, I didn't really have a lot of faith because a lot of these guys were new, they're young, I didn't know what to expect, but they've proven to get better each week.
Yeah, I think for me, when I look at this, and I'm sitting here looking at the stats, and one of the things that stands out to me, and I put it, this is where you guys are going to disagree with me. I'm going to go back to Talia for a second. The vision of Talia is my biggest issue. Remember when we talked for week 1 about those 3 interceptions and they were all in triple coverage? Well, in this game, all 3 interceptions, or I'm sorry, all 3, no, hold on, I'm looking at the wrong stat. So 2 of the 3 interceptions were on the same side, on the right side, and in double coverage. The vision downfield for him, looking at the double coverage instead of the open man that's on the left-hand side or coming across the middle, it's just not there.
I'm having a hard time remembering it completely, but one of those interceptions was on what should have been a touchdown to Demas. He threw 100%. It to Demas.
Right.
If he hits Demas, it's a touchdown. And then there was another, the very first drive that we ended up getting no points, so we missed the field goal, was a wide open pass to Demas that he found him, he threw it, and he just sailed it out the back of the end zone. Yep. So I'm sure there are times where what you're saying is true, and it's been a couple weeks, so I can't go right to it because I wasn't one thinking that at the moment. But I know that one of those interceptions was definitely not throwing into a bad place. That ball was supposed to go there because it should have been 6.
Yeah,
fair enough.
Well, one of the things that we talked about, and I wanted to kind of get everybody's take on this, right, is one of the things we talked about in our most recent show for Shell and Tell was I know a lot of people were questioning whether or not the Terps should even play this year. Would it be beneficial for this program to even play this season? Because everybody's expectations for this team were not good. So everybody thought, well, this would be detrimental for recruiting. Well, it's been the ass opposite of that so far this year, right? The Terps are sitting at 2-2. They've won a couple of games that nobody expected them to win. They've been in a couple of games that nobody expected them to be in. And you're starting to see a lot of guys perk interest in the Terps. We're starting to see some decommits committing to the Terps, big names. This season for me, Ryan, I don't know how you felt about it, but for me, I think this was 100% worth having this season for the betterment of this program and the continued growth of this program.
Yeah, and when we're talking, whether it was worth to having the season, we're talking about like recruitment wise. There were a lot of talking heads, a lot of so-called beat writers and experts with the Terps that said, with what our recruiting class was like before the season started, we would be better off not having a season because if you go out there and you embarrass yourself, these people all start decommitting. Well, we had one decommit that seems like a hothead, who went to an SEC school in Vanderbilt, who immediately fired their head coach after he committed.
Right.
So Lord knows what his commitment's going to look like. And we've had two different 2022 recruits commit. The number one wide receiver and number one linebacker out of New Jersey, and Ward and that's the current player. Nair Graham
Right.
is the linebacker out of New Jersey. And we have another commitment today. I'm not going to blow the kids' cover. We were told in Secret Maryland chats who it is, but we have a wall gift today, and
Right.
hopefully you'll be seeing another big-time addition in a very strong suit of this class. So I'm happy with things going. And there's also a lot of smoke about a really big fish coming from the maize and blue up north.
We'll see.
All right.
That's why I say I just think that regardless of COVID, I think this is a successful season for Maryland. Even if Maryland doesn't get to play this game against Rutgers here, and this season ends at 2-2, this is a successful year for the Terps.
As you say,
A 500 year? We haven't had a 500 year in a long time, man. I'll take it. I don't care if it's 2-2, 1-1. 500 is great.
yeah, so I mean, obviously we don't play the game against Michigan. They have the COVID outbreak on their end this time, and that wound up getting a game against Ohio State canceled for this coming weekend. So we don't see the two of them play. But we have this game against Rutgers. Obviously, we got to stay healthy in order to play this game. But how do you know, Rutgers is 2-5. They're coming off the loss to Penn State. Their only wins against Purdue and Michigan State, who both those teams have had subpar years for their programs. What do you guys take? What do you look at this and say are your keys to the game in order to win against Rutgers?
Well, we're almost back to healthy. So if we would have played the Michigan game, we would have had 8 players back. At least 4 of them we know are real big boys that would have helped us out. Not sure who the other 4 are. Now it'll be 15 of the 23. I don't know specifically, but it'd have to be a really bad 8 players left to have us look anything like that last game. We're going to get back our starting running back for sure. We're also getting Fleet Davis back, who hasn't played all year. They just announced that he's back in the fold, so our running back room's getting a lot healthier. I think that Greg Schiano's got those boys motivated. I don't think that the talent's close yet. If we lose, this is Greg Schiano motivation team. I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, this is a game that I think we all kind of had checked off on our preseason schedules that the Terps should win. This is one of the 3 that we thought that they could win. And I don't think that's changed. If anything, that's just kind of reiterated our point. I want to see continued improvement. You know, I want to see this team continue to take strides forward. I want to see Talia come out there, be confident like he was in the two games that he played great in. I want to see Jake Funk get the ball, which if you haven't checked it out yet, our latest episode of the Shell and Tell podcast is out. We actually did an interview with Jake's brother, Dr. Josh Funk. Ryan did the interview. It was a great interview, very insightful, gives you a little bit of kind of insight as to what Jake went through his rehabs, and it was a really good interview, so make sure you check that out. But
yeah,
for
those that don't know, Josh is a physical therapist at the doctor part, and he was the physical therapist in charge of his rehab. So gives an inside look at that, and also the fact that he's been one of a couple hundred people that got to see Big Ten football live and get his outlook on what the season looked like from the sidelines.
Right. Yeah, and I just want to see continued growth from some of the young guys. You know, I want to see Ruben out there and continue to get better each week. This is a game that I don't know what it means for us as far as bowls go, because they just changed it. Now you don't have to have this 6 games to qualify for the bowl conference championship or whatever. That sets up Ohio State and Northwestern for their showdown, I guess. So I don't know what that impact means for us and as far as bowl goes, but I think this is a game that the Terps should win.
I was just saying it means $6 million. The whole idea is that whoever has a team in the quarterfinal championships for the playoffs gets $6 million for their conference. So everybody voted to let Ohio State in so we could all split up $6 million.
There you go.
All right, guys, time for the rundown. And I know this is a little older news at this point, but, you know, let's face it, it's been a couple of weeks since we've done a show, right? But we talked so much about this for weeks on end.
So much hype.
You and I went back and forth on this a bit as to whether this was going to have the entertainment value that it should. But Mike Tyson did get in the ring with Roy Jones Jr. They did fight. It went 8 rounds. Apparently Mike Tyson was hired in a kite in that fight. But Roy Jones did what a 50-year-old man should do against Mike Tyson and just kind of hugged him for 8 rounds. Got in there, gave him some love for 8 rounds. But to me, it was still fun to watch. Like I did watch this fight. It was still entertaining when Mike had time to really and space to be able to. You could tell he was just in such better shape. At the end of the first round, Roy Jones is huffing and puffing, looked like he needed oxygen in his corner. I mean, it was bad. Mike Tyson wasn't even breaking a sweat until like the 4th round. It was, for me, it was entertaining. Was it what I had hoped it to be? No, but they didn't have headgear on. And I really think that if Roy Jones gives him a little bit of space, Mike Tyson goes for that knockout 100%.
Hours beforehand is when the Vegas, who was holding it, the Vegas commission says, oh, well, knockouts are now legal. So these two guys have been training for no knockouts, and then hours beforehand you say, oh, well, you can knock each other out if you want. Like,
shit, pay-per-view sales suck. We need to get this up.
Exactly. I heard a lot of radio personalities talking about why would anyone waste their money and like reading the rules about these things, and like national broadcasting radio. So their pay-per-view sales probably were terrible. And they're like, we have to do something right now.
Yeah.
Well, and it's look. It wasn't entertaining for everyone. I wasn't able to watch it live, so I had to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
But when I went back and watched it, was it entertaining? Sure. Should it have ended in a fucking draw? No fucking way. Mike Tyson won that fight all day long. He landed more hits. He was more detrimental. Yeah, he didn't knock him down, but he was still landing a lot of solid punches. And honestly, I feel like he was pulling a few of them.
Yeah. So, I guess you give them the draw just because they ended up going 8 rounds. I'm going to tell you now, I thought there was no way. After that first round and the way Roy Jones was huffing and puffing, I thought for sure he would have a heart attack between the 3rd and 4th round. There's no way he's going 8 rounds. I didn't care. But somehow he managed to make it through.
Yeah, because he hugged him after the fight. I mean,
yeah.
What else are you going to do?
You got to talk about the other fight in this card.
More entertaining fight.
Oh, the
which
one that ran away with
super
it, yeah.
entertaining and absolutely hilarious. As you had former NBA basketball player Nate Robinson going against YouTube sensation Jake Paul, whoever the hell this guy is. I just hear his name all the time. He's doing
just the
crazy
brother
shit
of
on
YouTube,
YouTube.
so sensation.
Well, no, he's got his own channel too. It's just his brother's got the bigger channel in Logan
His
Paul.
brother started this stuff.
Right, but
Okay.
I mean,
I didn't even realize they were brothers. I thought they were the same person. I had no idea.
they do look a lot alike.
Fred, this would be like me representing Birdland BS. Like Logan Paul is the face of the franchise.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
But
Well, Jake Paul held his own because Nate Robinson looked like Mac from Mike Tyson's Punch Out when he gets knocked out and just laying flat on the canvas there, man. It was pretty hysterical.
Clean out in the second round too. And that's the thing about like with Jake Paul. This is his second professional fight. His second professional. We'll put that in quotes. He had 1 exhibition fight and two true fights. But he landed 8 punches. So in 2 rounds, 8 punches in this fight. 3 of them were knockdowns.
Yeah.
He's the Mike Tyson of YouTube.
So I'm going to ask you guys this because you guys all watch it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The first knockdown. Do you think that was an illegal hit to the back of the head?
I mean, it was definitely not on the side of the head. It was definitely towards the back of the head. So
It's a YouTube fighter versus an NBA player. Who cares?
yeah,
Let them hit them wherever they want to hit.
Yeah, I have nothing. I don't know.
I've
barely seen any of it.
I looked at it after that. Robinson didn't look the same. I mean, the swing and miss that he had where he fell to the ground. I mean, he was just out of it after that. And that's why that's an illegal hit to the back of the head, is because it does so much damage and could literally cause a concussion back there or cause damage. That's why it's such an illegal hit in boxing. So I was just surprised by that, but I think it was definitely interesting for sure. But coming now, the news this week, sticking with boxing and sticking with Paul, Floyd Mayweather comes out and says he's going to have an exhibition fight versus Paul, but it's not Jake. It's his brother, Logan, who lost to KSI, who's another YouTuber out of England. in his exhibition fight. So Floyd, you're gonna fight a guy, but it's not gonna be the guy that's 2-0. It's gonna be the guy that's 0-1 and got dismantled.
Well, I guess so. I had it screwed up. Because we talked about this prior to the show. So I guess if Logan Paul is the Fred of Birdland BS, the guy that represents the branding, right? If that's the case, then that makes sense from a dollar standpoint. That's all that's all Floyd Mayweather cares about in this fight is money. He's just going to run around the ring, dance around the ring, make a punch here and there, and then he's going to get his punch. Yeah, he's going to get his paycheck.
The bigger draw, though, I disagree with you because the bigger draw is the guy that's 2-0. The guy that
I think the better matchup is the guy that's 2-0.
But that's the guy.
But the bigger draw is going to be the guy that's got 50 million followers on YouTube.
But so Jake uses his brother. Jake can grab all of those. All Logan has to do is promote it. All Logan has to do is say, my brother Jake Paul is taking on Floyd Mayweather. You got to check it out.
But we could do a nursing skills competition, and and Ryan's representing Shell and Tell, but Fred Birdland BS is gonna have a lot more people watching because Shell and Tell don't have no followers.
It's I get it, but it's Floyd Mayweather. And you're wanting if you want something that's gonna draw money. If what we think is true out of that fight, that they really said at the last minute, we need to pull some more money in, because I completely agree with you, Fred, on the Tyson side of things. They weren't getting enough, so they said, we're going to allow knockouts.
Yep.
It made it, and then boom, it
Headgear's coming
skyrocketed. That was the whole thing.
I will say, if
I didn't pay for it.
If you're going to save boxing, this garbage is what's going to save boxing. You need to bring back the celebrity death match in real life and just let it go. You have a Twitter dispute, immediately reach out and be like, we're going to pay you $100,000 and you $100,000. Come fix your Twitter dispute right here in the ring. And that's how you fix boxing.
But because
nobody cares about boxing anymore.
The whole sell, though, Ryan, is you can't just have that, because what took away the entire show was Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg commentating those fights.
He's hilarious.
He
is absolutely hilarious.
And he's already said
he needs to commentate everything, like football, basketball, anything.
That brings you back to the golf, the match where you had Charles Barkley commentating for Phil Mickelson, Tiger, Peyton, and them.
Yeah.
So there's ways to make sports entertainment again. That's if you're not getting the draw that you used to when Tiger was running the world, you find an entertaining way to make golf. If you're not getting the draw when Mike Tyson was the most dominant force in the world, then you find a way to make it entertaining.
Right.
and this is a really good way to do it.
This won't be the last time we see Mike Tyson in the ring either.
No.
He'll fight again.
Guaranteed. He will not, and it won't be an exhibition match. I think he's going to fight a legitimate match here.
We got good weight classes here, man. Ryan versus Fred, Josh versus Drew. This is a good pay-per-view.
Let's do it. I'm ready for
Did
it.
he just call me Josh?
Yeah, he definitely called you Josh.
Josh?
You said Josh.
All right,
All
Fred,
right.
take us
I
on.
already got to win because no one's going to know Josh is. I'm already in the lead at that point.
Got it. Drew's just standing in the ring by himself going, I'm waiting for Josh to show up.
If you don't want to see his friend Josh, trust me. You don't want to see that guy.
Fred, take us to the Broncos, man.
All right, man. So sticking with the theme of the show and the theme of 2020, right? So the Broncos, we didn't talk about this. This was 2 weeks ago now at this point, also hit hard by COVID to the point where
Kinda.
it wiped out their entire quarterback room. Like we
Only
talked
one
about,
of them- Only one of them had it.
yeah. Well, we talked about like what it would look like, not having an entire position group. Well, we saw that with the Broncos. They ended up having to bring up a guy from the practice squad, a wide receiver from the practice squad, who played a little bit of quarterback in college or whatever.
Wake Forest.
And Hinton at Wake Forest, right. And listen, I give him credit for going out there on short notice and having to, play quarterback in the NFL. But, I mean, it was a shit show. It was everything that you would expect it to be when you got a backup quarterback that's a former wide receiver out there.
I give him more credit than
the
you
only
do.
guy that I think might have been able to do this is pulling a name from back in the day, is Antoine Randall. Because that guy was a good quarterback when he was given the opportunity in Pittsburgh.
He what? I give him credit for only throwing 2 interceptions out of 9 passes that he threw.
Look, Maryland knows a lot about linebackers and wide receivers and linemen playing quarterback. All right?
Yes,
So that's kind of our thing.
That is very
man.
true.
Yeah, they got hit. They definitely got hit hard. The one thing, did you guys see? I think it was the Steelers game, the Ravens Steelers game, at halftime. The interview that Mike Tirico did with Roger Goodell, where he actually called out Roger Goodell and said, "Wait a second. How did you play this game and push back this game multiple times, but yet a team that has their entire QB room wiped out due to COVID and high contact, and you don't push that game back, and people talk about competitive balance, that is the definition of not having competitive balance. How did you not postpone that game?" I give Mike Tirico a lot of credit on national television to call out Roger Goodell, and Roger's face was like almost like he wasn't expecting that question.
When's the email coming out from Mike Tirico and the staff saying he's retiring?
You're right.
He's going to be asked
End
to
of the
retire
season.
soon.
I'm glad the question was asked, but I don't know that it's valid because pretty much what they've been sticking to is 48 hours without a positive test. And that was true in the Denver game. They had a positive test. 48 hours later, they played the game. Turns out that they couldn't clear the problem was all the quarterbacks sat next to each other in a room without masks on within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes. So why did you idiots do that?
But
Why
under
did
under that same rule and under that same mindset, Ryan, why was the Ravens Cowboys game then played?
Because we don't if they are being truthful, now it's a big if with the NFL. What they're saying is that with their little trackers that show 6 feet, they found X number of players that did that, and then they investigated whether in that amount of time that they were within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes and had their mask off. So even though he's hugging a dude with his mask down, as long as that hug was 14 minutes and 59 seconds or less, with these weird rules they have, it's not of exposure.
So it takes 15 minutes to sneeze and for me to get it to you.
I
when you're 2
100%
seconds
think
away
they're
from you.
garbage rules. It's the same thing. Look at the Big Ten versus the ACC. The Big Ten says you're out 21 days with any positive test. The ACC says it's like 10 days, and then they even have them standing on the sidelines with their mask on, watching Trevor Lawrence pull it away from his face to whisper to somebody. So, like, there's totally different standards. And, I mean, in the medical field, our standards move, like, every day. And
But they don't move that dramatically.
I think the NFL's garbage, but they've been sticking to the same standard. It turns out only one quarterback had COVID. They should have let one of the other three play, but they didn't have time to clear them for what their rules were.
Fair enough. All right. Well, so the other thing that we got to talk about is some of the boots. There's 2 boots that happened, or technically 3 boots that happened over the past few weeks. First one was Lions head coach Matt Patricia gets the boot, and GM Bob Quinn gets the boot after a 4-7 start to the season, and right after they lost 41-25 to the Texans. My quick question to each of you: did they both deserve to be fired here?
Yes.
I think if you're going to make a move, you make both moves, and you make it early enough, like you are now, that you have time to find the replacements before next year, before you start preparing for the NFL draft, because you want those guys, those pieces, head coach and GM, to be involved in those conversations and those decisions. So I think from a franchise standpoint, from a business standpoint, I think this was the right move for the Lions.
You had me so confused. I didn't understand what this segment was about. I think Matt Patricia 100% needed to go. What was the other coach? Because I was too busy trying to figure out what we were talking about.
It was the GM Bob Quinn.
All right, yeah. I mean, well, you hired Patricia. You stuck with Patricia. You've been terrible. You can't find a running back to save your life. You keep spending draft picks on it.
I got AP. What are you talking about?
Yeah, okay. We go 40-year-old running back. Can't find one under 40.
I think you just made my point though, Ryan. Is I don't know that Patricia deserves as much discredit as he got and the firing that he got, because he's dealing with what Bob Quinn is giving him, and he's trying to do with what he can. We've got a quarterback in Matt Stafford who is maybe past his prime at this point, as far as I'm concerned. There's not a lot of weapons around him. You're bringing in guys from the running back perspective as far as AP, and he's kind of your best guy that can get you the most yardage, but it's still not that much. I don't know that he fully deserved the firing. I think maybe if you had another GM in there and he's still the head coach for a year or two and you still have the same issue, I get it. I just don't know that it's the right move to fire both those guys, in my opinion. Matt Patricia, look at a track record of guys that have come from Bill Belichick.
Real hit or miss. That was my next point. It's either really good or really bad because Bill Belichick was either doing 3/4 of your job for you or he wasn't. But
Matt Patricia
has not been really good.
We never heard anything out of the Patriots organization that Matt Patricia, that Bill Belichick was doing the defensive play calling. That was always Matt Patricia.
Matt Patricia will just come home just like all the coordinators do.
he'll go right
Josh McDaniels will go right back to the Patriots and fit in and be great.
Speaking of
He'll find his next fit.
Speaking of defensive coordinator, Fred, the Jets firing. Like,
Yeah.
really?
I
A
mean,
dead man firing a dead man.
Greg Williams, I mean, this seems to be a pattern with this guy. He gets fired pretty much everywhere he goes. I don't know. The Jets, the fact that their head coach, Adam Gase, still has a job. Huh?
You mean pothead?
What? Makes no sense to me. Like I just said.
He's an alien.
Yeah,
You have to-
you're
have
about
make
to have
sure you get Trevor.
you're about guaranteed the number one overall pick in the draft, which means that you're going to have a high draft slot in each round of the next coming draft, right? Like I said about the Lions, I think the Lions are going this the right way. Like, if you know your head coach is not going to be a part of this organizational decision for this next upcoming draft, why are you not making that move now and starting to find your replacement, start interviewing your replacement, start putting an interim coach that maybe you have internally in place now to see how he does and how the troops rally around him? Because if they don't get rid of Adam Gase, the Jets just continue to do Jet things and are just going to be a terrible franchise and organization no matter if they do or don't get Trevor.
Maybe the Jets are already tampering, and maybe the Jets already know that their replacement is on a very strong playoff team. Eric Bieniemy takes over with Trevor Lawrence in New York and shows off.
I mean, I don't disagree with you that this year. I just don't know how the entire
Or maybe that's why the Lions are pouncing now. Maybe
Nah,
they're trying to
there-
get things
There could
lined
be a
up.
backroom deal already because Trevor Lawrence can bring. New York is not a job that anybody wants, but Trevor Lawrence is a quarterback everybody wants. So maybe it can change that job.
Be interesting to see what happens with Sam Darnold.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Sam Darnold's a terrible quarterback. I think Sam Darnold in the right system,
It's bad
led
coaching.
by
yeah.
somebody other than Adam Gase, I think he could do good
Yeah.
elsewhere.
It's bad. It's bad coaching all around. And I think you're spot on that. If you get there's a combo there that can work in New York. It's just you got to figure it out.
Yeah.
Would it be very strange for Sam Darnold to go back up for the Bills? Because I feel like that was what he was supposed to be, is the Josh Allen quarterback. So could he be like the RG3 to our Lamar? Could he be the backup for Josh Allen?
No. He'll go somewhere and he'll be a starter. He'll be a starter in this league. I just don't know where it'll be. Might be Chicago.
Indianapolis.
They'll just try a new quarterback anytime.
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
Indianapolis would be a great spot for him to
I
land.
think so.
All right.
With that offensive line and with that defense, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No rules.
Do we have questions?
Sure, why not? We got questions.
I got one.
2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning. All right, Fred, you and I are going to this completely blind. I'll go first. I'll upset the chain that we normally
You're
do.
going to completely blind. We were also told to come up with questions 5 minutes before broadcast.
It was during the
You
countdown.
guys were told literally
They were giving
during
hand
the
signals.
countdown.
The countdown started. They're like,
Trying to figure out look, when I was
thank
trying to figure out
God Drew figured it out.
I literally
I didn't know what he was doing. He just throwing up gang signs. I'm like,
I was doing 2-minute warning, and then I took my
Early.
iPad and turned it around. And I see Drew go, okay, I got it.
He said 2-minute warning. I was like, oh fuck. The
All
whole
right.
time you guys were doing shell tell, I was coming up with my questions. So
All right, so
Okay.
each of you guys gives us one question. Who's going to give us a question first?
Drew,
I'll
you
go
got
first.
it. Go ahead. Mine's
All right.
goofy.
then yeah, nah.
I
All
hope
right,
he asked the question I think you're going to ask.
what was that?
Nah. So James Harden looking to get out of Houston. Does it happen? If it does, where does he go?
So I think the latest rumor that I heard with him is that he was asking for a trade. I want to say it was to the 76ers, that he was looking to go to Philadelphia and do something up there. I don't know what it is that he's looking to do up there. I think he's a fit where he's at. They just need to gel and have health. If they can have health, that's going to be the key. That's where they can do well. I don't. Harden's a guy that I thought was always going to be in Houston. I really did. I didn't see him being anywhere else, but apparently he wants out. He's asking for the trade. He's holding out before camp. We'll see what happens.
I don't know where he's actually going to end up, but there's two places that I think would be kind of intriguing. And I think first would be in Brooklyn. You pair him with Kyrie and you get Kevin Durant back. I mean, it's a lot of people, it's a lot of mouths to feed and whatnot, but you talk about a very high-scoring, high-productive trio. That would be a very, very good team up there in Brooklyn. And then I think the other part, the other piece that would be intriguing would be out there with the Clippers. You get him paired with Kawhi. That would be a 1-2 combo that would be lethal to match up with. But I don't think he ends up with either one of those. I think he does end up in Philly, to Scott's point, but both of those would be intriguing to me.
Ryan, what you got?
And after LeBron and AD beat all of those teams, we won't worry about it. Question for you. We brought up MTV Deathmatch. Give me your dream real-life MTV Deathmatch.
Oh, God. Wow.
Like it.
This is not where I thought you were going by any means. I was not prepared for this question. Well, I'm going to say I would love to see.
All right, Manny Machado versus who?
All right. Manny Machado versus Artano Ventura. I'd love to see that actual fight versus the one swing that he took at him. I think that'd be the case.
Wait, isn't that guy dead?
He's dead.
That fight would be awesome.
Pretty sure that guy died there,
Maybe winning.
Josh. Such a Josh thing to say. All right, so my celebrity death match, you ready for this? It's
Sure.
not sports related.
Go.
Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Put them in the ring and let them fucking have at each other.
Oh, God.
It would be absolutely hilarious. It would be the most entertaining thing. It'd be the most entertaining thing to ever hit TV. It would be great.
The pay-per-view sales will be gigantic.
Trump is grabbing. Trump is
No,
grabbing.
but
the crotch
where I
and
thought you were
Biden's
going
snowing
with the
him.
Manny Machado thing, Manny Machado and Josh Donaldson. You remember they had a beef there with the whole bat thing back in the day or whatever. That would have been an
I
interesting.
would throw a bat at somebody in Oakland.
That's what I'm talking about.
Josh
Josh
Donaldson.
Donaldson.
Yeah,
Oh, he was in Oakland at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Manny and Buck Showalter. There's got to be some kind of ill will with Buck and
No,
Manny.
I'm gonna do one better for you, Manny and Ubaldo.
Okay. since we're bringing up dead people, Buck and Earl Weaver.
With a random ass question like that.
Oh man.
Oh man. Anyway,
Zach Britton and Buck for not bringing him in fucking in that Toronto game. God damn it.
And then the MLB sold his game worn jersey that he didn't fucking
Right.
need the sweat on.
oh man.
All right, Scott, sign us off, man.
All right, we appreciate you guys tuning in on this off week for us on a Wednesday night. We appreciate you guys each and every week. Make sure you're also checking us out on our website, www.birdlandbs.com. You know, we got the episodes there. We got the gear. We got the Shell and Tell. Go check out the latest episode of Shell and Tell. Make sure you also check us out on all of our social media pages. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, everything. Go check us at Birdland BS. You've got each of our handles here at Fred BLBS, at Scott BLBS, at Terps BSpert,
He's just Drew.
and
And Drew.
Drew.
Drew hates Twitter.
I don't know.
Just search Drew and find him. That's all you can do.
That's the only Drew out
All
there.
right, you
27
question
there,
this
you're
week.
good.
It's hashtag Drew.
Hashtag Drew. Let's trending, right? Make sure you also check us out, bigplay.com, Big Play Twitter page, and also download the Big Play app. Birdlandsports.com is also another place you can check us out. Make sure if you guys are checking us out on the audio version of the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen, make sure you also drop us a review. That helps us and helps us in searches and everything.
5 stars.
Give us those 5 stars. We appreciate it. Make sure you leave us a comment on that as well. Not just the review, but the comment as well. And we greatly appreciate that. We'll be back to our regular show on Tuesday nights at 7:30 on all of the regular channels. So for Fred, Terps BSpert, and hashtag Drew, I'm Scott. We'll see you next week.
Don't forget the stinger. It's time for the after party.
It's last call for alcohol.
That was a real big delay. I was like, am I going to have to pick up the slack on that one?
It's
like,
weird when I have
not going to do it. I guess I will.
It's weird when I have to mute myself and do all that stuff at the same time. Oh man.
That's a good show. First virtual one in a while.
Technically
Since,
kept it under 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, mission accomplished.
Yeah, right. By the way, Fred, I said I was going to get more of this to you, but I'm drinking it all. This stuff is amazing. This was like 2 weeks ago. The brew of the
Yeah,
week.
that
This
stuff is good.
Brewdog Pulp Patriot Raspberry. It's a raspberry milkshake IPA. I know that they have it still up at Liquor Stop, so go check this stuff out. It's just so good.
I miss my alcohol. Been a couple weeks since I've had any. As soon as it hit the lips, it was so good.
Oh man. You threw me off of that celebrity death match thing. I was totally thinking he's gonna go the Big Ten, and what do we think about the Big Ten and the announcement that they made with the Ohio State? But I know Fred had already mentioned it, so we didn't get into like that. I totally thought you were going that way. Not prepared for that at all. And then you threw the Manny Machado at me, and I'm like, you're Donna Ventura. And I was like, as soon as you guys started laughing, I was like,
as soon as you said it, because I legit the entire time you said Manny Machado, I thought you're going Josh Donaldson. And then as soon as you said Ventura, I'm like, dead. I'm pretty sure that guy's dead. Like, what to say at first? Then Drew looked at it like,
help out the non-baseball guy. Is that the Blue Jays' second baseman that swung with him?
No, that's the pitcher for the
that would
Kansas
be
City
a good
Royals.
one too. Jose Bautista and what's his name?
So who's the dead guy?
Ventura. He was a pitcher for the Royals.
You're Donovan.
Oh, I remember him.
He was a pitcher for the Royals. They had a brawl, but Ventura, I mean, he would throw at guys, but it was like you're throwing over head shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
he did it on a regular basis too.
Look, I'm not no disrespect to the dead, but before that, he was one guy you wanted to see just get fucking decked. And it was only one good punch, but May still fucking decked him, and it was good to see. You just didn't know a year and a half later,
Speaking of dead guys, you guys took my whole Mo Gabbett comment the whole wrong way.
Bro, that was not okay.
You said it the wrong way.
Drew's a little boy we're just taking care of just out of pity.
No,
we all know it's true.
Mo Gabba would call into 105.7 The Fan and give his pick to click as the honorary pick to click every day for the Orioles stuff. That's what I meant by it. I didn't mean any disrespect by it. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no disrespect to Mo, only disrespect to Drew. No big deal.
Yeah. Who cares about Drew? You don't even have an ad.
Drew, how's your coral wall?
What's that?
How's your coral wall?
You're muffled for some reason.
Your coral wall.
It's fucking horrible. It's
like hard on the eyes.
It literally looks like you have an orange filter.
God, it's dried my eyes out.
As the show has gone on, your face has started to kind of blend into the walls.
He's in Oompa
It looks like he's in his mother's womb.
If I was
He's
bald,
still in your fluid there, your whatever that is.
yeah. If I was bald shaved, it would just be headphones. What the fucking hair?
Yeah.
And then she comes in looking for a goddamn charger or some shit.
Oh man,
That was great.
Yeah, I told her, I was like, this fucking room is.
It's all right. I had all this stuff hooked up I had all this stuff hooked up upstairs in the office, and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna be up there. I'll say bye to the girl, and she's like, oh no, you're not gonna do that in the office because that's next to the girls' room. So
Yeah.
I'm set up on 3 bar stools in my basement.
And that's the thing about this room, as horrible as it is. It's like it's the only room I can get away in.
Yeah.
I can't just sit here in my living room or even in the den and like do it because the kids are still awake when we start.
We're gonna thumbtack up a blanket next week.
Yeah, something's gonna have to happen.
I do have a few extra green screens if we need to pass them around.
I think I might like it doesn't help that like straight across from me is a light, like one of the standing lights, and like the light bulb shines all the light behind me. So maybe maybe I can help it next week by just like maneuvering some lights around, and it'll help. I don't know. I think it matters.
I was like,
This
God,
is
am I gonna have to
horrible.
cut myself off with this Yingling or something because his face is just fading away?
She painted this room this color before the kids were born. So like 4.5, 5 years. That's 4 years ago. I swear to God, I've run out of counts. How many times I've opened this door on a week, like in the middle of the day, thinking the light was on, but no, it was just the fucking sunlight hitting the goddamn wall, bouncing the light through the doorway.
Brother, Ray
Make it
Charles
look
would
like-
think that's a bright room.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, that's
Honestly,
real bright.
It's the only solitude in the house. So.
We got the brights down low and the darks up top. That's what it is.
Phew.
Oh man. Well, it was a good show, guys. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I know we're all remote and we all would love to be here, which by the way, when you guys come here, there is a new setup in this room. There's now a couch in this room instead of all the
Hey-o.
chairs.
It's a casting couch.
Didn't we already get
No,
rid
we're
of
not
the
going
couch
there.
that was down there?
Wait to see how many of you actually knew what I meant by that.
Fred,
Oh, I
we're
know.
up.
We all knew.
talking about-
No, there's
Drew's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I've spent many a nights in this room watching casting.
I'm not fucking hiding it.
Oh man. Yes, Ryan, there was another casting couch down here at one point that you sat on, sir. You sat on the
never sit
casting
on that
couch, the
couch.
original casting couch.
And then you found some way to sell that or get rid of that somehow, and now we've moved another one.
Well, this one's this one to take it to the next level. This one's a love seat.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Me and Fred got a love seat.
I'm gonna have to get Snuggles in there.
Oh yeah, no, but so the
I almost,
change
I almost
moving.
boosted up my Wi-Fi so I could do this from the love seat.
Oh man, but yeah, no, it's this was a lot of fun doing this remote. I know that we're missing Brian and James. Hopefully, with the regular schedule, both of them will be able to join next week, and we can have 6 of us on here. Nice. I love the format when we're like this because it allows us to really kind of see each other, talk to each other a little bit more, and allows the fans to see us not just have Drew in the background on a phone.
As fucking Mo Gabba. Nah.
We're all going to hell.
Fred started it all.
No.
We need to donate to the Mo Gabba Foundation and go pray on the street. or
By the way,
something.
I got a shirt somewhere.
We didn't get the chance, by the way, to talk about it, but huge kudos to Baltimore and the Orioles and the Ravens for naming Mo Gabaway
And Jeremy Kahn.
and Jeremy Kahn because he was the one that made it happen. Truly,
yeah.
I have so much respect for that dude, for caring about that kid so much, caring about his mother so much and his family so much that even once, sadly, that the kid passed away, like he's still working really hard to keep honoring that kid as every like breath that he has, like he's making sure that he still honors that kid, and it's really amazing. I don't think Jeremy Kahn's ever going to see this, but hey, kudos to Jeremy Kahn.
Oh, there's somebody on here
might
might know the guy, so
Yeah, I grew up with Jeremy, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
see, I've only known you for a couple months. That's
Yeah, I
fine.
still got that card in the back pocket. Like, when am I gonna
Yeah.
pull the Kahn card out? But I haven't pulled it out yet.
yeah. At some point, we're gonna have him on the show. But yeah, no, I mean it's a credit to him and everything he's done. I follow, I'm friends with him on Facebook and in Twitter, and then I'm actually friends with Sanzi on Facebook, and just the stuff that both of them post in his memory and his honor. And we didn't get the chance to talk about this either because this happened a few weeks ago. Did you guys get the chance to catch both of the tributes to Mo on NFL Network and ESPN?
They're both well done.
Sadly, I didn't.
Yeah, they're
No?
both really
I'm
good.
gonna have to get around to it. I don't know why. It's just you get too busy, and I didn't get a chance like when they actually aired.
Yeah, they were.
Just didn't have a chance and completely forgot to record them. I'm sure I can go find them. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they were so
I'll have to.
so well done, well put together. And the other thing I did want to bring up here in the after hours, just because it was, we all posted and we're talking about it in the chat.
I was actually just getting ready to talk about it. Yep.
Go ahead, I'll let you bring it up, man.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, we all rave about the Ravens and their social media production team and their media production teams. The Atlanta Falcons and Hayden Hurst put together a piece on suicide awareness and talking about Hayden Hurst's story And I know he's made his story public many a times, but the piece that they put together, it's about like a 12-minute video. You get to see a real side of Hayden Hurst you probably haven't seen before. He gets emotional. He talks about it, firsthand, what he went through from, his days at baseball with the Pirates and the struggles that he went there to the transition to football and everything that happened in between. His family was very candid about things in it as well. It was just a really well put together piece. And I appreciate Hayden using his platform to bring awareness to mental health in general, and continuing to do that. It speaks volumes of who he is. And the fact that the Atlanta Falcons put this video together with him just goes to show what kind of organization they are. It was really well done.
Yeah, I thought it was very emotional. I found myself choking up multiple times
I definitely did.
throughout the video, and just while I'm not in his shoes, I can only try to imagine in those situations. I mean, this is a guy that your average fan doesn't recognize where Hayden Hurst comes from. They just see the University of South Carolina. That's what they see. Your average football fan. They don't recognize that this kid was a top prospect in the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. He grew up around the Pittsburgh Pirates. He went to Bradenton multiple times, to watch them in spring training as a kid, and then to go and be a part of your dream organization and throw 94, 95 miles an hour and be a top prospect, and then seemingly feel like out of nowhere you can't feel the ball in your hand. And the one thing that hit me, I think where I personally started to get a little like emotional in that video, I didn't go through it to that extent, but to recognize to get to a certain point. So I shared it a little bit with Fred, but I had, and I don't know that Ryan or Drew, I know definitely Drew doesn't know this. I don't know if Ryan does, but I went through, just like Fred did, tryouts for semi-pro teams. And I hit a point where I hurt my knee and I couldn't do it. The point in that video that hit me the most was when he was pitching and he was just practicing. He's in shorts on a practice field and he throws the ball behind a cardboard cutout and then tells the story of how he lost control and hit a kid in the head and the kid had to be taken out. So what something like that does to you mentally, an injury to yourself is one thing, but to feel like you literally have no clue where the ball's going coming out of your hands.
It goes to show like just how controlling anxiety can be over one's body and your reaction to things, because that's what it is. It comes down to you being in your head, letting the anxiety consume you. And then you lose track of, you get a case of what they call the yips, right? That happened. We talked about it plenty of times on the show with Rick Ankiel. Fortunately for him, he was able to save himself a career by transitioning from pitcher to an outfielder. He was still a good hitter and ended up having a few years of a career as a hitter. But for Hayden, I mean, when you're talking about being a dominant pitcher and that's your position, and now you can't throw the ball over the plate, it put him in a dark place. And, he was able to rally around his family and his friends, turn his focus over to football. Yeah. And we all know the career that he's had so far in the NFL. So, again, just kudos to him and the Atlanta Falcons for allowing him to use his stage and to put together that video. And, again, continuing to bring awareness to mental health, because it's important for everybody out there. And it goes to show that these athletes are no more human or less human than us. They're the same people. They just make a whole lot of money doing what they do. Yeah.
If you're out there looking for that, check out that Darren Waller video too that I had the first time around that you guys put me on.
Yeah, that was a good one as well.
All right, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.
See you.